World Championship Wrestling. Bringing you great wrestling action. Sanctioned by the NWA, National Wrestling Alliance.
Show.
We watched NWA World Championship Wrestling from June 4th, 1988.
Let me add, by the way, one other thing. Dave will be back tomorrow.
Oh.
So everything should be back to normal tomorrow. I believe we're going to do the post-Raw show. But I'm not entirely sure because he'll be very tired.
Yes.
But we're going to do our best. So everything should be back to normal starting this coming week.
So
Proceed, Vinny.
This here show in June opened with a recap of the Powers of Pain attacking the Road Warriors at the bench press contest, which I believe was in, January.
Yes.
And then they never brought it up again.
I was astounded.
Was this a production error? Did somebody hit the wrong tape?
I have a theory. So as everybody's well aware, there's a lot of squash matches on these shows. And there should be a happy medium between all squash matches and Raw today where there's no squash matches and you see the same fucking main eventers wrestling each other 1,000 times.
Yes.
There should be a
happy medium.
A happy medium,
Yeah.
a middle ground. So what I was thinking was, this is the way things used to be, by the way, back in the old days. You'd have a feud. Let's say it's the Road Warriors versus the Powers of Pain. You shoot an angle, right?
I'm with you so far.
And then you take it on the road.
Yeah.
You go around what they used to call the loop, and you wrestle in all sorts of different towns. Then maybe you add a straitjacket stip or something. Then maybe you add a scaffold, whatever. But you go around the loop a few times, all right? So eventually there's going to come the point where, this match is, you're done with it.
Yes.
Okay. That's when you put it on TV for free. Right?
Yeah.
So I thought, well, they did the bench press gimmick a while ago, and we're seeing clips from, the winter. So maybe they've gone around the loop with this match a bunch of times.
I see.
And here on TV today, we'll see the Powers of Pain versus the Legion of Doom.
It won't draw on house shows anymore. We may as well use some TV time and get some eyeballs that way.
Nope. I have no idea why they put this on television. That was weird.
Road Warriors weren't even on this show.
No! They were not on the show.
So they go to the announcers. It's Jim Ross and David Crockett and Tony Schiavone. And they're all cheery. They're plugging the Great American Bash. And what's funny is when they're plugging the Bash, I don't think in this particular promo they mentioned a single wrestler. They only talked about the stipulations.
Yeah, they had a bunch of wacky
You're going to see bull rope matches.
Bunkhouse
You're
match.
going to see a bunkhouse match. You're going to see war games. You're going to see the Tower of Doom.
Calf killer barbed wire match.
Calf killer barbed wire match, yes.
Brutal.
Jim Ross has got to add that to everything.
Yes.
So they're doing this, and it's all at a normal pace, and it all comes off as very, three guys really excited about these very exciting matches that are coming up soon. And then, suddenly David Crockett gets a cue. They're going to the ring, and he says, "Hey, fans, we got a lot of action in the ring. Let's go." And they went to the ring for, oh, my God, did we have a lot of action.
Boy, was this action-packed.
Oh, my Lord. Ron Garvin versus Russ Tyler.
So Russ Tyler, by the way, is a big dude.
Big, tall man.
Ron Garvin's not a small guy, but he's not a big guy.
He's an average pro wrestler, maybe even below average for the 80s.
But Russ Tyler's a big dude.
Much bigger than Ron Garvin.
And Ron Garvin did not work a little man versus big man match.
Well, he did, but he was the big man.
He bullied this guy.
This was 10 minutes of beating and humiliation.
It was awesome.
So Tyler wasn't super fat, especially by the standards of some of these jobbers you see, but he's not lean. And he's in there with the one boob singlet. So he's got one boob hanging out. And for a while, this is just every Ron Garvin match ever.
I think guys that get the one boob singlet have a good boob side.
They might.
Specify, can I get the strap over the left boob?
It's possible.
Because my right boob's got a little bit better definition.
My right boob is not quite as saggy.
Yeah. That's interesting.
That's entirely possible. But first of all, before we get to that, I do want to say someone suggested this. I think it might be true. I'm pretty sure Ron Garvin is just inventing submission holds on the fly.
Yeah, of course he is.
He takes this guy down. He says, well, I can put my leg here, so it's behind his head. And if I put it here, I can also hook his arm. Now I'll hook his other arm with my other leg, and now I will just stand here. And did that for a while.
I watched Ron Garvin, and we've mentioned this a billion times. He was never an amateur wrestler.
Yeah.
He was never a shooter. But man, I watch the things that he does, and I watch how he positions himself and how he uses hips, and I'm thinking this guy would have been so fucking great.
He's an athlete, that's for sure.
He would have been such a great amateur wrestler. He would have been such a great Like a fighter?
Yeah, he would be a great fighter, because a big part of having to be a great fighter is you have to have the what it takes inside you to punch another man in the face.
Well, yes,
which a lot of people don't have, and he for sure as hell had that. So he takes this man down, and he's like got his legs hooked or whatever, his arms hooked or whatever. He's looking down, he kind of slaps him in the face, and he looks down, and there's this man's boob just out, just there. And he just, I'm not making this up, he just reaches down and he puts him in a titty claw.
Sure.
He just grabs this breast.
Grab them boobs.
He did. That's exactly what he did. Well, boob, singular.
It's true.
And he's
that was
grabbing,
big enough it might have been.
Like I would call it a titty twister, but he wasn't twisting it. He was just squeezing. It was a boob claw. At this moment, they cut to the crowd.
Milking him.
He may have been. At this exact moment, they cut to some toddlers in the crowd who look terrified about what they're seeing.
I figured they'd be salivating.
For the milk.
Look at them boobs.
Yeah. So the beating and the humiliation goes on for a while. Garvin pulls the one strap down, and Tyler immediately pulls it right back up because it's the bad boob. Doesn't want to show that one, yeah.
Hide that.
Right.
Bad tit.
So eventually, Garvin just punches him in the face and pins him. Right, it was the Garvin stomp. He won, regardless.
He punched him.
And won. So then Garvin does this promo.
Allow me.
Okay.
I wrote much of it down. He says, I take my beating like a man. I don't complain. It ain't easy. I came up the hard way. We have these bashes coming up. There's going to be some fighting. As talking a fight is one thing, fighting a fight is something completely different. That's what we were talking about, actually.
It is.
Everybody out there, you need to get in the gym, work out, stay in shape, quit complaining, and think about making some money. He storms off. Get in the gym, work out, stay in shape, quit complaining, and think about making money. Is everybody fucking listening?
The Keys to Happiness by Ronald Garvin.
Jesus Christ, the keys to life. Let me say that again. Get in the gym, work out, stay in shape, quit complaining, and think about making money. Is there anything else?
The Book of Life.
I suppose love your family might be a helpful addition.
His brother will take care of that
But
later.
I can't think of anything else on top of that.
The one thing you left out of it, well, two things. He emphasized...
Subscribe to our website.
He emphasized, make that money. That's what Ronnie Garvin's going to do. Everyone remember that as we go forward the next couple of months. But before all of this, he had a point where he gets out on the floor, and I don't know how much hairspray he put in it, but his hair's still all slicked back. He's been wrestling for like 10 minutes and working to beat this man's ass. He says, I don't expect anyone to take it easy on me. This is not an easy job we have, an easy life we lead. So I'm always prepared for a beating. If you're not prepared for me, you're in for a surprise. And as he says this, he turns and looks back into the ring at the beaten, flabby man he has just humiliated. Then he told everyone to get in the gym and work out and stay in shape. I don't think it's a coincidence that Russ Tyler inspired this speech by going to the gym and getting in shape.
Yeah.
And then taking a beating.
Yeah, this guy wasn't in the gym. He wasn't working out. He wasn't staying in shape. Probably bitching. And definitely not thinking about making money.
I think it's a very strong likelihood this guy was clearly not in shape. Yeah. And there's a good chance he was complaining about something, and Garvin was not having any of that. That's just the opener. We got a whole show to go. The Fantastics versus Dave Spearman and Keith Steinborn.
God, Keith Steinborn, we know he sucks. Okay. Tommy Rogers decides, I'm going to give this guy a monkey flip. Why do people do this?
I don't know.
Why do you not look at your opponent and make some determinations? Like Keith Steinborn is not going to take a good monkey flip. Well, he did it.
He took a monkey flip.
He took a monkey flip.
An actual monkey would have done it better.
Dave Spearman was actually pretty good. He took a very scary backdrop. But the key is he made it up and he made it back down. On this show, with these jobbers, accomplishment. Because even with the help of gravity, I am not sure half of these jobbers could successfully find their way back to Earth after being thrown up in the air.
That's true.
He did it.
The highlight of this match, I forget which one it was, but the Fantastics are in there with one of these guys, and they do the double whip of the guy into his own corner. And they wait for him to make a tag, and they're waiting for a hip toss to come out. And the dude just turns around and walks towards them, and they just grab him and push him back. Like, tag out, fucker. And they went on for a while, and they had the rocket launcher, and they won.
So throughout the show, they've been talking about Jim Cornette. And in the first match, they say, last week, Jim Cornette vowed to walk out of this company. But he's supposed to be here this week. But we haven't seen him. I was like, what is going on? So he walked out.
Yes.
But you still expect him here.
You booked him.
But he's not here.
They haven't seen him.
And you're surprised.
They're surprised he's not shown up for work yet.
Okay.
We'll see how it plays out.
So then in this match, they spent the whole thing talking about Cornette, which, to be fair, was better than when they spent the entire match talking about the Omni last week. And I'd like to add, by the way, that it's a fucking week later. I have no idea what happened to the fucking Omni.
No, you do not.
I don't know one goddamn result.
No.
They spent a whole show talking about a match, a series of matches, a whole show. I couldn't see then, and I can't see now. And then they didn't tell me what happened.
Correct.
Fuck you.
Lex Luger comes out for a promo. So last week there were a ton of Horseman fans in the crowd. Like more Horseman fans than anyone else. This week it was not quite that many, but there was a vocal contingent of heel fans. But it was just enough that it would make the other fans cheer louder to try to drown them out.
Yes.
Which is a great atmosphere. So Lex is there. There's some boos, but that just makes the people who like him scream louder. So there's this really raucous, great atmosphere. Lex says he's been waiting a long time to get his hands on the Nature Boy Ric Flair. Since Christmas, he has been waiting to get his hands on Ric Flair. And the longer he waits, the angrier he gets. Now the bashes are coming along. He's not wrestling Tully Blanchard. He's not wrestling Arn Anderson. He's not wrestling Barry Windham. He's coming straight for the Nature Boy. And he takes off his jacket, he takes off his tank top, and he's flexing. He says, the total package, Lex Luger, yeah! I will be the next world's heavyweight champion. That was a good promo.
It's pretty good.
Mike Rotunda versus Trent Knight.
For the television title.
For the world television title.
The number one contender, Trent Knight.
Well, you want to know the really amazing thing about that? I'm pretty sure Rotunda squashed Trent Knight last week.
Hey, sometimes that's what we got to do.
Apparently he impressed them enough in that beating.
I'll find out for you.
To warrant a rematch. If it wasn't last week, it was the week before. I'm almost positive. Rotunda and Trent Knight wrestled recently. So Sullivan's doing...
This could have been any of 100 jobbers, Vinny. They're all very interchangeable.
They really are. Sullivan's on commentary. He wishes Patty a happy birthday.
It's her birthday today, he says.
So if you've been watching or listening to the Nitro reviews, you know there were a lot of people in wrestling who thought it was really, really funny how Jim Ross is obsessed with football. While they were watching this here show in 1988, where he starts going off about the Syracuse lacrosse and basketball programs.
Goddamn, Mike Rotunda, Trent Knight.
Yes. It was burned in my brain.
December 23rd, 2018.
So...
what a way to earn a championship match. Lose
badly.
Yeah.
And get a title match.
With the same finish as this match.
The butterfly suplex?
Yeah.
Yes. Huh. So they're talking about the bashes, how Rotunda will be defending the TV title against the Elite of the NWA.
Wow.
Got really excited there. I thought we'd get...
I'd like to see Rotunda versus the Young Bucks.
Cody would be fun.
Him and Steiner.
Yeah. Yes. So Knight takes the giant backdrop. I think that's how I remembered. Knight took a giant slam the last time they were working together too. And finally, Rotunda hits the butterfly suplex and wins.
I was bored. There wasn't much to it.
Yeah.
Rotunda did a boring promo. He's going to defend the TV title at every bash show. He's a fighting heel.
The one thing about this is, I told my lawyer, he says, my lawyer, I want to defend the title on every show. That's what an attorney does now, is he books you? Don't you have a manager in Kevin Sullivan?
It's something money related, I'm sure.
I guess.
Yeah.
Promises to fight Sting, Dr. Death, Nikita. Promises none of them can beat a member of the Varsity Club. Barry Windham versus Curtis Thompson.
Apparently Curtis Thompson was not getting a championship match here.
All right.
I don't believe this was for the title.
The U.S. title was not at stake.
But he actually had a pretty decent physique. Wyndham gave some stuff early. Then he lariated him for the pin.
Yeah, he becomes Firebreaker Chip, Curtis Thompson does, somewhere down the line. The only two notable things here were Barry's outfit of the gray tie-dye trunks, banana yellow knee pads, and white cowboy boots with yellow trim. An odd look, to say the least. And they're talking about how he's Since he's joined the Four Horsemen, he's even more aggressive and more ruthless. And at this exact moment, to drive that point home, Thompson whips him in. And Thompson, as he says, is a big, powerful, thick, broad-shouldered dude. And he whips Barry in, and he throws a back elbow. And Barry he no-sells the elbow entirely. He throws in the brakes. He sneers at Thompson, and he throws this overhand right that clubs him right in the back of the neck. Just waffles him. Hits the lariat and pins him. This leads to J.J. Dillon and Barry Windham cutting a promo. Dillon admits, for all the things we've said about Dusty Rhodes over the years, all that we've said, the Four Horsemen, we claim to be the measuring stick in this business. It was really Dusty Rhodes who was the measuring stick.
Dear God.
For 10 years in this business.
Who writes this stuff?
Right. So, for 10 years, I've tried to destroy Dusty Rhodes, put my own guy on top. I couldn't get it done. Now I've got someone who was raised in the shadow of the American dream to finally take
of his own molding has come forward.
His own molding.
To destroy the American dream.
That is excellent.
And Barry says, Dusty molded me, but he has nothing to do with me now.
Nothing to do with what I am now. You will never get this U.S. title back. JJ was awesome here.
We go to Dusty, and he's booed louder than ever this week. Like, I thought a heel was coming out. He's booed out of the building. Everybody's chanting for Barry. He says this old man in a rocking chair is going to jump out of it and strangle Barry by the neck, as opposed to by the wrist or the leg. Vows to win the U.S. title. He lives stronger than ever, and the Great American Bash will take its toll on Barry.
The bash is upon us, and I'm ready for it.
Mentally and physically.
Yes. Steve Williams and Nikita Koloff versus Bob Emery and Bob Riddle. Here's exactly what I wrote about the match. They do some stuff, and Doc wins with Stampede.
I wrote a fun beating, much longer Nikita match than you usually get on TV.
And then...
Okay, here it is, our weekly. It's like when you do the finishes report.
The Nikita
These are
report?
the words that I could get out of this Nikita Koloff promo. Are you ready?
I guarantee, if you got one, it's more than me.
I got actually like a half dozen.
All right.
I got Lex Luger, Dusty Rhodes. We are looking for the Four Horsemen. That's pretty impressive.
That's many in a row.
Nikita Koloff, Al Perez, and Gary Hart. Notice these are all names.
Yeah.
Right here. I not forget about you. That was it.
Okay, you got a lot more out of this than I did.
This was the most incomprehensible promo I've ever heard.
I was convinced that Nikita, by this point, had been working so hard to get his gimmick over, he'd actually learned Russian and was speaking it in front of me.
This is what drives me nuts. Like, I've mentioned this before. Lana on SmackDown, like sometimes she has no accent whatsoever anymore.
Sure.
She has her normal accent. Every now and then, like she still says Rusev for some reason.
Because it's fun.
I guess.
Rusev.
But she never like everything else, her accent is going away. Okay? So, I mean, it take 1 second for one of these shithead announcers to explain to us that she's been in this fucking country now for years and years and years. Like, she's losing her accent. Is it that hard?
Apparently it is.
Okay. Well, anyway, this should happen to Nikita. But it's getting worse. The longer he's in this fucking country, the less he can speak English.
The worse his English gets.
This doesn't make any sense.
No.
What is he doing?
I don't know. Now, he's also, of course, this is the Nikita's slimmer. He's growing out his hair. And when I say growing out his hair, when he came back, he had a flat top. It didn't look as cool.
It's not as bad as John Cena's new haircut.
That is worse.
But it's pretty fucking terrible.
He came back with a flat top or a buzz cut, or whatever you want to call it. And it looked fine. He looked cooler bald, but it looked fine. Here, it's like this, I don't even know. What is it? It's a long flat top.
You know what he looks like? He looks like
Kid and
Hawk
Play.
When Hawk grew his hair out in like the 90s.
Worse. I know, kind of. Yeah, but
point is, it's terrible look.
It's very, very awful. So he's this ugly man who's skinnier than he used to be is speaking to me in a language I do not understand.
Which is English.
So then Doc takes over.
You ever seen those old Hogan promos where he's hanging and banging on the beach and he's with his buddy and they're on their motorcycle? He just tells fucking ridiculous stories.
Sure.
That's what Dr. Death did here.
Hogan?
To the point where he's cracking himself up.
I was going to say Hogan never got this wild, but he did. But this would have been a good wild promo for Hogan. So here's the story that Dr. Death tells on national TV.
The whole time, by the way, Nikita is standing there, mugging at the camera and sticking his tongue out. What?
Blowing his cheeks out.
This was the most bizarre promo of the year.
It's been confirmed. A lot of pro wrestlers used a lot of mind-altering substances in the 1980s. I don't know if Nikita Koloff is on that list, but if he was, it was on this show at this moment. Now here's Doc's story. At least Doc was coherent. I could understand him. Doc decided one day that he was going to drive his truck to Dusty Rhodes' house. So he drove from Oklahoma to Texas, drove to Dusty's house and said, Dusty, let's go for a soda at the country store. And they went to the country store and they got a soda. I believe he may have said they picked up a girl along the way. Then he says, we saw 4 big studs sitting on the other side of the tracks. And they reminded me of the 4 horsemen. And now he just starts shouting out words at random. Intensity, shape, condition.
This sounds like an assault. They just found 4 dudes and beat them up because they look like the horsemen.
I guess.
That's a capital offense, depending on the level of beating.
Nikita keeps making faces, and they leave.
And given it was Dr. Death, it was probably a pretty serious beating.
What the hell was this?
Fuck if I know, dude. I was baffled.
So up to this point, I have been enjoying this show. And then things went south.
You know what's funny is it went the other way for me. I was bored to tears for the first half of the show. I was struggling to stay awake. Then the second half began, and I started to wake up.
See,
I hadn't woken up yet, by the way, for this Tony Suber, Dave Starr.
See, this is, I was with you. I think I was more awake than you. Then we got to this match, we both plummeted, and then we both picked up.
So it's Tony.
This fucking thing.
Tony Suber, Dave Starr, and Rick Paradise. By the way, Dave Starr, I believe, was Dark Star.
Yeah.
A couple of weeks ago. Now he's Dave Starr.
Maybe this is the heroic twin.
Powers of Pain and Ivan Koloff are their opponents. The only thing, a few things I got out of this. Barbarian killed these guys. It was awesome. Warlord has a new move. A Cobra Clutch.
Barbarian did that.
A Barbarian, I apologize.
Yeah, yes.
What was I thinking?
Warlord does not have a new move.
No, he has no moves. And the only thing I got out of this is, it has nothing to do with the match itself, really, what I saw on television, but can you imagine, as much as we make fun of these jobbers, if you're Tony Suber, Dave Starr, or Rick Paradise, like, you get to get in the ring with Ivan Koloff.
World champion.
The fucking guy that beat Bruno.
Yes.
That must have seemed like a pretty cool deal.
I'm sure it was.
That's the only thing I got
and
out
of these
match.
3 guys, Barbarian, he wouldn't kill you. Warlord by this point would not kill you. Warlord has progressed to the point where he's
competent.
He's just competent enough to be totally boring. He doesn't do anything bad enough to be laughable. He doesn't do anything good enough to be entertaining. Now, it's not like this was a horrible match, like guys were falling down left or right or anything. It just went fucking forever.
It was boring.
It went long. It went through a commercial. Kept on going. Went on and on and on. Barbarian, the technical wizard, wins with the Cobra Clutch. And then we go to a promo. There's no Paul Jones. Warlord and Barbarian don't talk. So it's just Ivan. And Ivan's a perfectly fine promo. But this promo also went forever.
Well, the point of it, I'll make it quick. He says, people say we cheat, but we don't care. We want results, and we're the champions. So, LOD, you guys are idiots. May as well stay in hiding.
You're hiding like rats in the gym.
If you come into contact with us again, it'll be bad news.
You'll get injured for the 3rd time.
We're going to throw you off the top of the Tower of Doom cage and break your skulls like watermelons.
And the scaffold matches as well.
Yes. Bad times.
He starts talking about how we are all led by the genius of Paul Jones. I'm like, what the hell is Paul Jones? Did Paul Jones have a prior engagement on this Saturday?
Probably did.
So
with Flair at the Paradise Club or whatever.
It may have been. So we were at this point on the same page. The show ground to a halt. This match was long and boring. This promo was long and boring. I needed something to wake me up and save the day. And then God sent me the Varsity Club. Rick Steiner and Kevin Sullivan versus Jerry Price and Dan Grandy. Dan Grandy's the guy who I call the copy of the copy of the copy of the copy of Steve Williams. Big, kind of looks like him, same haircut, no good. But he's big. So Steiner looks at him and says, this guy's way taller than me, probably outweighs me. I'm going to suplex him a few times just to show I can. So he suplexes him left and right, and then he whips him in, and he clotheslines him in the face. And you know how when one guy chops another, and there's that slapping sound of flesh on flesh? It makes that noise when Steiner clotheslines this guy in the face.
Fucking brutalizes this guy, and then Sullivan goes, "Do it again!"
Again!
And Steiner says, and I quote, "He won't get up!"
You won't get up.
Sullivan says, "Get him up!" So Steiner got him up.
Steiner got him up.
Clotheslined him in the neck again.
Clotheslined him in the face again. Sullivan says again. And Steiner says he won't get up. And Sullivan says, I'll take care of this. Sullivan hits the ring. He destroys Dan Grandy for a while. He goes over and beats up Jerry Price without even letting him tag in. He lifts Grandy up. He makes Grandy get up. And Steiner hits another clothesline.
I love when Steiner hit a one-arm power slam.
Dude, they do the same gimmick. Jerry Price gets in. He's much smaller. So Steiner says, I will power slam this guy. He hits this big giant power slam, and Sullivan screams, again! And so Steiner says, all right, I'm going to do one more power slam, and it's going to be so awesome, he'll never want me to, I won't be able to top it. And he whipped this dude in, and he fucking powered him, and then he slammed him. Jerry Price went up very quickly, and he went down even quicker. This was spectacular. The greatest damn power slam I ever saw.
A glorious squash, suplex finish.
They just throw the guy out, start throwing furniture at him, and finally there's a foot stomp.
Oh yeah, Sullivan, he beats the shit out of him outside, and all of a sudden the desk is on top of the guy.
Podium is flying
I don't even know
through the
where
air.
the desk came from.
They hit the foot stomp and a belly to belly, and they pin him. This was great. And then
Sullivan starts his promo by saying there will be no lollygagging here.
there will be no lollygaggers.
No lollygagging. Celebrates the Tower of Doom. He then attempts to explain the very complex rules. Do we need to explain the rules of this match? Get out. There's like a door. It's open for a few minutes.
There's 3 cages.
Some guys can be in, some can be out.
He's talking, and Ross is asking questions, and Sullivan is so intent on being a crazy guy that he fails to do the job of clearly explaining what the rules of the match are. And this comes up later. But there's 3 cages stacked on top of each other. There's 10 men. There's teams of 5. You start at the top. In 2 minutes, a bell rings. There's a trapdoor open for 10 seconds. It can be 2-on-1, 3-on-1,
Jesus.
5-on-1.
It's like a complicated war games.
Kinda. Promises, if you want to see total destruction, you want to see total annihilation, you come to see the Tower of Doom. Now here's the key. For one team to win, all 5 members have to fight through the cages to the bottom and out the door. And who's in the cage holding the key to the door?
You must flee.
You must flee. Who's in the cage holding the key to the door but my squeeze, Patty? It's just, Patty and I have had this plan for a long time. Now, Jimmy Garvin, I may not get you in that first cage. I may not get you in that second cage. But when I get you in that third cage, I'll make you the king of the land of the blind. And you know why I call him that, Jimmy? Because in the land of the blind, the one-eyed man is king. He's going to walk out with Jimmy Garvin's eyeball. That's what he just promised to do. He's going to walk out with Precious, because Precious, this one's for you. That was something. We think Jimmy Garvin versus a geek. I think they need him Bobby Rose by the end of this. So Jimmy is pissed. He's fired up by this promo Sullivan just cut. Precious is in Jimmy's corner, but she clearly does not want to be there. She's disinterested. She's awkward. She's uncomfortable. Jimmy beats this guy. He's not Ronnie Garvin, unfortunately. He was not that kind of beating. But he beat him pretty good. And he he hits this brainbuster that has us both screaming. This looked like a murder on live
It's because
TV.
like every third or fourth brainbuster, it's not every time, but like every third or fourth time, it catches me completely off guard. Like, I think he fucked something up.
Yeah.
Like, the guy starts to go up, and all of a sudden he's on his head.
Yeah.
And we go, what? And then it turns out it was he planned it.
Yes.
It's a very weird brainbuster.
Most guys do a brainbuster, and they lift them up, and they drop, and it's all the illusion is based mostly on the angle.
No, that's not the thing. Most people lift the guy up, and they hold him there for a second.
Yes.
And then they drop him.
Yes.
Garvin will like lift them and drop them before they're like when they're halfway
Before
up.
they get up.
Yeah, so
it's not drop. He's like
you don't know he's going for the brainbuster.
He pulls them down.
He could very easily be going for a suplex or
Yes.
whatever. That's why half the time it's like he goes and all of a sudden bonk, they land on their head.
Yeah. So it always, for every third or fourth time looks vicious, and then they go to that slow motion replay that shows his head did not come within 6 inches of the mat.
Yes.
Yeah. So then he goes to cut this promo.
This was one of the great promos. Well, it's the best promo I've seen in 2016, I think, or 2019. What year is it? Fuck's sake, 2019. Yeah, it's the best one I've seen this year so far.
So Garvin's out there with Precious, and she still does not want to be out there. And as he talks, the camera zooms in on her, this very uncomfortable woman. Does not like the position she's been put in.
It's funny because like she's totally overacting, but she's actually doing a pretty goddamn good job of it.
Sure. In this case, too much would be better than too little. So Garvin says, yeah, I put my name in this contract for this Tower of Doom match. Now Precious is standing here. She's standing with me because she's my wife. And when I repeated my vows, I meant every one of them. Now, Kevin Sullivan, I want you to come out here. You tell everyone what you told her. Because it's obvious she's hot at me. She's out here as a commitment to Jim Crockett Promotions. She's not out here because she wants to be. And it's like my brother said. You go in that ring and you get beat up, that's okay. That's part of the job. I'll take a beating like a man. But when you start messing with the women of the Garvin family, then you're messing with something dangerous. And Kevin, he says, if this has anything to do with the little ones, I'll kill you.
He's not allowed to say that. He tells us, I'm not allowed to say some of these things. But I'll break every one of your fingers. I'll break your hands.
If you touch my wife, I'll kill you. I'll break your fingers. If I can't, my brother Ronnie will.
Called him a no-good chicken.
No good chicken.
A no-good chicken after that great promo. He's killing it. Then he calls him a no-good chicken.
So he outright says, I don't understand this match. But if you touch my wife, I'll kill you.
He actually finishes up saying, I couldn't believe he said this. I'm no saint. I've come home a little late here and there. But Precious always forgave me. But she's not forgiving me this time.
Whatever Sullivan told her, she won't forgive me for that.
So an important detail here that we've never really talked about before is shortly before this whole Sullivan, Garvin, Precious deal, WWF had done the Jake Roberts storyline with Jake Roberts and Rick Rude and Jake's wife.
Oh, yeah.
It was very, very, like, I don't know if popular is the right term. It was a very, very successful angle.
Okay.
Critically acclaimed.
Sure.
Everybody remembers it. Mm-hmm. And apparently it got over huge, and so the NWA decided, hey, what the hell, let's do this. It's the only reason I can come up with, because it was right around the exact same time.
Yeah. That was a great promo. Now, there's certain things in wrestling
oh my
that
God,
when they appear on the screen, you know something's about to go very badly for somebody. If there is a cake on the screen, somebody's about to be covered in cake. If someone shows up with a large portrait of themselves or magazine cover, you know they're going to end up wearing this frame sooner rather than later. So when the Fantastics come on screen, and it's the two of them, and they got their sequins and their bow ties, and Shivani's there, and Crockett's there, and they're just randomly holding a straitjacket, doom.
Listen.
Doom is about to befall you.
Listen to me. We watch this show, we rave about the promos, rave about the booking, rave about... I mean, the only thing we really don't rave about is when it's boring. There's rarely something where it's like, what in the fuck were they thinking? And this is one of those things. This was fucking straight out of tomorrow's Raw. You had two massive baby faces come out. Very, very popular. They're the champions. They are winners. These two fuckheads come out, and they've got a straitjacket. Mm-hmm. They think that Jim Cornette is crazy, and that he needs to be put into a straitjacket.
We're tired of getting hit with tennis rackets and leather straps. We're going to put him in a straitjacket so he won't be able to hold any weapons.
So fucking Shivani...
It's all his fault, really.
...says, can you show us how this straitjacket works?
I've never seen one. How does that work?
And David Crockett, of course, he's marking out for everything. He's all for it.
So Fulton says, well, I'll put it on.
Dude, these fucking morons. Fulton stands there, and he says, hey, let's do this. They put this goddamn straitjacket on him, and they start tying it around his back. For like 2 minutes.
It's a 2-minute process.
And as they're tying it, they're like, well, his arms, now they get restrained.
They haven't even tied it yet. I can already feel how tight it is in my arms and shoulders.
They're tying it. They're just fucking tying it and tying it. And Shivani's like, well, what happens when you tie this strap here?
He's got it on. Like they figure out how to put it on. It's not strapped. And Tony says, well, what do you do with the arms now? Oh, well, you tie him up like this.
So they're
And there's
fucking tying him up.
straps and buckles and
Fulton says, and I quote, "I can't hardly move." I'm like, you son of a bitch. You dumb motherfucker. And sure enough,
it's awful tight, man. I can't move at all.
the fucking Midnights and Cornette
They
rush out.
they zoom in.
It's like a bus hitting somebody.
They wipe out Tommy Rogers. Fulton is left straight-jacketed. All he can do is look at his partner being attacked and scream, "Oh no!"
This moron. They get a chair. They fucking waffle this guy right in the head. He goes down dead. They beat the shit out of him. All I could think was, you two assholes deserved it. You are the dumbest two fuckers I ever saw in my life.
They didn't think this
You
one
idiot
through.
baby faces. You fucking morons.
Jim Cornette gets
This
the
killed
mount.
the Fantastics for
Jim
me.
Cornette gets the mount and starts throwing these awesome punches.
I'll never forgive the Fantastics. They're dead to me now.
There's two ways to look at this.
No, there's one way.
I'm not denying.
They're absolute idiots.
I'm not denying they look like complete buffoons.
This
here.
is why they were sold to Turner.
This was dumb.
This is the fucking stupidest thing I've ever seen.
They looked okay. I'm not denying they looked really dumb. The Midnight Express were smart men here. The Fantastics were dumb men.
Jesus
The
fucking
dumb men
Christ.
deserve this beating.
I don't have enough profanities to explain my discontent with the Fantastics.
As far as teasing something and building to it and building to it and then delivering, home run.
Yeah, home run if you're cheering for the fucking Midnight
Well,
Express.
by the end, everyone was.
Maybe this was the Midnight Express babyface turn.
You know what?
It could have been.
Spoiler alert.
They're turning babyface.
By the end of the year, they do.
This had to be it.
They have been teasing confrontations with the Horse of the Powers of Pain. There have been cheers to them already. It's a slow burn. Okay, because I don't think the Fantastics stick around. I could be wrong.
I hope not. They should leave this territory in shame.
This
after
may be the bit where they start to write the Fantastics out and start the midnight turn right here. Listen, I'm not denying that the Fantastics look like
It was my favorite thing on the show.
absolute dipshits here.
But they were the stupidest two fuckers I ever saw.
But it was so much fun to watch.
I mean, I've seen a million angles where, like, the baby faces end up in a situation, and there's all of a sudden that realization by everybody, oh, shit, they're fucked. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But rarely is it because they're so fucking dumb. He put his fucking partner in a straitjacket.
No one-
This should have been, like, Tommy Rogers' heel turn. It should have been the three of them, him and the Midnights, beating up this fucking idiot.
Yeah. This is the key. No one tricked them into this
No!
or dared them.
They were low IQ morons. That's what happened here.
Yes. So right away they go to the break. This must have gone a little long. When they come back, whoever it is interviewing Gary Hart, and Gary's got his promo planned. He knows what he's going to say, but then they throw him a swerve. They ask him, Gary, what do you think about what just happened to Jim Cornette and the Fantastics out here? And Gary pauses, and his eyes brighten. I think it was terrific.
He thinks it was terrific.
I think Jim Cornette picked the right time and the right spot.
No
just
shit.
the way I plan to pick the right time and right spot with you, Nikita Koloff, and it's getting very close. And they threw him a curveball, and he responded and used it to feed into his own spiel perfectly.
Yeah, because he's great.
Gary Hart was phenomenal. Do you understand me, Brian?
I'm well aware. He's in the
Do
fucking
you
Hall of
understand me,
Awesome.
listeners? Gary Hart was phenomenal. So then he changes his focus to what he had planned. Talks about Nikita Koloff. Now, you remember, you Russian, this is not your country. We did not adopt you.
I like to think we got Gary Hart in the Hall of Fame this year.
We couldn't hurt. Could
had
not
to
hurt.
be. Had to be.
We don't want you. I hear these fans, they call Barry Windham a traitor. Well, as far as I'm concerned, if you cheer for a stinking, lousy, lowlife Russian, you're a traitor. Dusty Rhodes is the one who turned on Barry Windham. Dusty Rhodes is the one who got Nikita to defect. And very soon, Nikita may not be here. You know where I come from? In Chicago. He mentions the street. I didn't get it. He says, we do it right. And when we do it, ooh, I better stop right there. And he leaves. He was going to have the mob kill Nikita Koloff.
Yeah, he has something in his pocket, too.
He did last week. He had something in his pocket. Larry Zbyszko and Al Perez versus Gary Phelps and the patron saint of the terrible World Championship Wrestling jobber, Dale Lapierus.
Dale Lapierus.
First of all, it's spelled different every single time.
It really is. I hope nothing bad happened to him in real life because I got nothing good to say about him. Just the worst.
How does he get skinnier every week?
Lapperouse, the rangy one from the bayous, looks like a mad stork.
It's not Bryan's words. Those aren't my words. Those are the words of Jim Ross, lead play-by-play guy in 1988.
The rangy one from the bayous looks like a mad stork. Dale Lapperouse should just thank God Jim Ross even acknowledged him.
He's out
That's
there.
more than I would have done.
He's wearing... They're spandex trousers. For any other wrestler, I would call them tights. But they're not tight. Because he's so skinny, they hang loose on him. Now, it would be one thing if he was terribly skinny and emaciated, but he was okay. He's fucking horrible.
He's the worst.
He can't do a goddamn thing.
He is the worst.
He's the worst wrestler of all time of the week of all time.
Yeah.
Al beat him with a toe hold. And I was trying to look up whatever happened to Dale Lapperouse. I don't know, but I do know that there is someone who's taking the time to put together a Dale Lapperouse playlist.
He's got to be alive then.
There's links because no one else would do it.
Yeah. Kidding me?
They put up there's like a dozen matches and they're all links. It's like networkplaylist.com or something like that. And it's links to the network, so I don't feel bad about plugging this. It's apparently all of Dale Lapperouse's matches on the WWE network.
Fuck, who the fuck could avoid that?
Including one with Ronnie Garvin.
I need to watch it tonight.
We may do that sometime.
No. I was kidding.
Sting versus Tommy Royal.
You know what's funny is I once heard somebody say...
Call him Tommy Royal and then Gary Royal. Which one was it?
It's not Gary Royal, you idiot. Tommy Royal. So somebody, I don't remember where, when I read it or listened to it or whatever, but it was noted to me, or I read somewhere, whatever, that everything that has the words royal, king, etc., always ghetto. Burger King, Dairy Queen. For those of you older fans, King's Table, Royal Fork, White Castle. These things are all ghetto. Add Tommy Royal to the list. Fat, short, painfully pale, no physique.
He looked like...
Awful. Terrible bleach job.
He looked like he really, really, really bad wanted to be Buddy Rose, but he wasn't.
He could not achieve Buddy Rose's look.
No. No.
Let's stop and think about that for a second.
Yes, that was his goal. So they do some stuff. I kind of like Tommy Royal. He's so aggressively horrible.
He was pretty bad.
Sting, first, Tommy Royal, everyone, tries to do the bit where they tease the lockup and then pull back and strut. And Sting is just looking at him like, what the fuck are you doing, Tommy Royal? Sting stops the match to shout at Tony Schiavone and scold him for not paying attention. Sting just grabs Tommy, rams his head in the turnbuckle like at least a dozen times.
And then let's go, and then Tommy Royal goes an extra time.
Yes. And then he hits a Stinger Splash and the Scorpion and wins. I gotta admit, I kind of like Tommy Royal.
That's because Sting was in there.
Well, that helped. And then...
So I gotta read this line from Sting. He's very excited.
Which one?
He's very excited about the bash. He says, "I'm more intense than most people are in their sleep, if you know what I mean." I thought, no, I don't know what you mean. What do you mean?
I think...
You're more intense than most people are in their sleep?
I think what he meant to say was, I'm more intense in my sleep than most people are when they're awake.
Well, he fucked that line up.
Came out wrong, but you know...
He didn't even come close.
No. A complete swing and a miss. But you know what? He was so intense in his power through. I won't say that he saved it. I won't say that he made it work.
Well, he did, because he admitted he was goofy, and then he broke all the rules, including the rules of grammar.
He goes from saying
logic.
I'm more intense than most people are in their sleep. Then he moves on to, I got people out here trying to tell me which camera to look at. I'll look where I want to. I'll turn around and look at these people if I want to. I'm a little goofy. I'm a lot goofy. Says Barry Windham and the Four Horsemen and Doodly Squat and all that kind of stuff. That's a quote. Says, I can't wait for the bash. I'm so excited. I can't say that. I'll talk to you later, David. And he leaves.
I was going to say the word God.
I guess.
I forget the context.
It was, I don't know. All I know is...
He said, for the love of... Oh, I can't say that. He couldn't say Pete.
What? Jimmy Garvin also had a line about how I'm not out here cursing.
Yes.
I wonder if somebody said, oh my God, and got yelled at. And got the whole crew yelled at.
Probably Ric Flair in every match he ever wrestled.
That could be it too. So all I know is Watching Sting is a lot of fun. And all I could think was being Sting must have been a lot of fun, too.
I'm sure you don't fucking say.
Yes.
Breaking news from Vinny. That's why he's paid the big bucks. Then they go to David Crockett, who says, "There's no other." There is no other.
There is no other Sting. Tully Blanchard and Arn Anderson versus Robbie Allman and Rick Allen.
Yeah, Rick with no K.
Rick with no K.
R-I-C. Facing the Horseman.
Good idea. Yeah.
He was killed.
The only thing notable in this match is Arn grabs Allen. Oh, it's Rick Allen, yeah. He goes to give him the wrist lock takeover. A very basic move. You don't need to know anything about wrestling to do this. He's going to twist your arm. All you got to do is go the direction your arm's being twisted in. Guy couldn't do this.
No, he rolled and did a Granby roll over his shoulder.
Planted his own head on the mat, and Arn just looks right into the camera like, what the fuck? Tully wins with a slingshot suplex. So the Horsemen are cutting a promo, and whichever announcer says they got a lot to talk about, says they got the barbed wire match in Houston's coming up between Tully and Dusty. And Tully pauses just a moment and says, everyone's so excited about that barbed wire match, but we're getting ahead of ourselves. Because you see, Brian, this show was the go-home show for the Clash of the Champions this Wednesday on national TV.
Oh.
The only thing
they did a hell of a job with that one.
The only thing they had done this entire show, and in most of the weeks leading up to it, is there'd be like a bumper graphic with a calendar, and like the 8th or whatever day it is, the Wednesday would show up, Clash of the Champions, Miami Mayhem. The only thing I know about that's on that show is Tully and Arn defending the tag titles against Dusty Rhodes and Sting, because I think Tully mentioned it last week, and he definitely mentioned it here. That's it.
That's some terrible promotion.
It's horrible. So Tully says, I would challenge against Dusty Rhodes and Sting.
Because I never pay attention to the calendar because we're years and weeks behind and months behind.
Yeah.
Right? 30 years.
Now 30 and a half years.
6 months.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I don't even look at the stupid calendar.
Yeah. So does Sting put up a little extra paint, put some on Dusty, it'll be an improvement. And he talks about the tag title match for a while, and then Arn starts talking about the bashes. And some of this he repeated last week. I still don't know what he's talking about. It'll be man against man, man against brother, father against son, civil war. This is the end times.
Wow.
Huh.
That seems serious.
And he makes sure this is all...
It is the end times, actually, for Jim Crockett Promotions.
I guess it was.
He's not wrong.
He saw the writing on the wall. Professional wrestling, he says, there is no entertainment in it. There's no Hollywood in it. We are the Four Horsemen. We are the elite in this business. And again, now when I hear that word, all I can think about is the Bucks and Cody and Hangman Page.
Yeah.
And I kind of want to see him versus the Four Horsemen now. That was the show.
Yeah, that was a show. A tale of two shows, everyone.
That was
the first half sucked. The second half was, well, I shouldn't say the first half.
The one thing in the middle sucked.
Yeah.
The first half was okay. The thing in the middle sucked. The second half was great.
Yep.
And there will be gorilla shit all over the Omni.
No.
Well, here's what you need to know, everybody. They ran a 6,000-seat building. They put 2,400 people in the building.
Yeah.
That's not very good.
No.
That suggests to me they did a shitty job building this up on the television show.
As I recall, we forgot about this until like the very last segment.
I didn't remember it was on.
Yeah.
But I mean, that's not my fault.
No.
That's their fault.
Exactly.
Plus, they spent so much time pushing the fucking Omni, which I couldn't even watch.
Yes.
That's the one I wanted to see. And then we had this show, which I didn't even know half these matches were going to be on the show. I mean, when they told us, when the show opened and they told us what matches were going to be on the show, I thought, fuck, that's a bunch of matches that they've kind of been slowly building up. But I didn't know they were taking place here.
No.
I thought they were just like working on them. So, yeah, then we got shit finishes. And we got an angle that we see. See, part of the problem, Vinny, is you're watching this through 2019 eyes. Like, this Luger attack in the parking lot, they claim was one of the biggest, shocking angles in the history of wrestling. We see it 3 times a week in 2019.
That's true.
It meant jack shit nowadays. But back then, it was a big fucking deal. And, like, the Brad Armstrong... What's funny is, historically, if you were watching live, you thought that Barry Windham, Brad Armstrong was exceedingly boring. I thought it was a great opener. I thought it was great professional wrestling. I want to see more of it. But back then, people were like, fuck, this match should have been better. I don't know. I've seen enough of Brad Armstrong to not expect a lot more. He had his usual arm drags, multiple arm drags, arm holds, more arm drags, but I liked it. Let's talk about the show, Vinny.
NWA Clash of the Champions.
Don't fall asleep.
I will try not to.
Because I'm going to keep everything running until you wake up.
Fair.
And then we'll keep going.
Fair. NWA Clash of the Champions, Miami Mayhem, June 8th, 1988. This opening video, among the highlights of the entire show, actually. There's alligators.
Yeah.
There are palm trees.
It's Miami, baby.
There's some wrestlers wrestling. And the very last shot, the go-home shot of this opening video, is small children in a boat smiling and waving.
Yeah. That's what happened.
That's what happened in Miami, everyone. Reptiles.
This was what
Plant
year?
Life. 88.
88.
So yes, Miami Vice was a thing. If that's what you're
I'm just wondering if like Kimbo Slice might have been on that boat because he would have been, I guess he would have been 14. It's a little too old. The children were younger on this boat.
They definitely were.
Having a good time. When with those alligators.
Yeah.
They showed alligators and then kids on a boat. Mm-hmm. Child abuse.
The gators weren't near the boat.
Don't send your damn kids out on a boat where there's gators around.
There's gators everywhere in Florida. Saying
don't
kids
go to
can ever
Florida
go on a boat?
then.
Well, that's fair.
Yeah, you heard me.
So limousines start to arrive. Dignitaries.
Which, by the way, I didn't last time WrestleMania was there.
Did not take your kid to Florida?
I didn't go.
Oh.
I vowed I would not return. I am a man of my word. I did not return.
And since this vow, you have proven yourself to be 100% alligator free.
Yep.
So the first celebrities, dignitaries,
Oh, fuck.
honored people, you want to call them, there's Francis Crockett from the Crockett family.
Stop right there, Vinny. Do you remember that Gene thing we just watched?
Mean Gene Oakland.
And they had the War to Settle the Score footage?
Yes.
And they brought in, like, celebrities
Yes.
after the War to Settle the Score?
Mm-hmm.
Like, actual Danny fucking DeVito's there. Mm-hmm. And Mr. T, who, honest to God, at the time was one of the biggest television stars in the whole country.
As was Cyndi Lauper.
Everybody fucking knew Mr. T.
Yeah.
Let's talk about these dignitaries that showed up in limos here for the Clash of the Champions.
Francis Crockett of the Crockett family.
Excuse me, who?
Francis Crockett of the Crockett family.
Okay.
I didn't even write his name down, but one of the owners of the Chicago Blackhawks.
Bruce MacArthur.
Okay. Who I think they actually...
Who?
I think they talked about him on Nitro one time.
Yes, he did come out on Nitro once.
Along with them was former NFL star Lyle Alzado.
Yes.
Who had transitioned to acting, and he was there... I think in the original broadcast they actually aired this. He had a announcement / promo.
Yes.
To hype up his new TV show, Learning the Ropes.
They cut that off the show.
Where he played a masked pro wrestler.
Yes.
And they actually had these stars of the NWA doing cameos.
Yep.
So
didn't air here. I don't know why.
Maybe they could not get the rights to Learning the Ropes.
I guess not, but you would think that, like, if they put it on their show, I don't know. Who cares? I didn't even see it.
That was the first limo. Oh, this next limo. I understand, Brian, you were underwhelmed by that first limo. But when this next limo pulled up and outstepped noted promoters Gary Juster.
Yes.
And Elliot Murnick.
Elliot Murnick?
Elliot Murnick.
Who the fuck is Elliot Murnick?
Well, he's a slim, middle-aged, four-eyed man.
Like, I know Gary Juster, obviously, but Elliot Murnick? He doesn't even come up in Google. Who is that?
He's a promoter.
Someone help me here.
I have no idea who Elliot Murnick is.
Murnock? I'm just going to keep Googling.
Murnik?
God damn. Well, Elliot Paul Murnick of Raleigh. I mean, could that possibly be him? This is an obituary.
Well, yes.
Well,
that would. I mean, there's a lot of pro wrestling in Raleigh.
Let's see. There you go. Elliot Paul Murnick.
May he rest in peace.
All right. He died June 19, 2017. God rest his soul. He was born June 15, 1942. Elliot worked in his family's business, Mid-Atlantic Wrestling and Jim Crockett Promotions, to promote wrestling events and entertainment shows across the state. Later worked to promote national pro wrestling shows for Turner Broadcasting. In the early 2000s, served as general manager for the Big Sandy Arena in Huntington, West Virginia.
The Big Sandy Arena.
Yeah. Okay. So I apologize for saying who the fuck is Elliot Murnick. I honestly had never heard his name before.
He actually was a dignitary.
He was a dignitary here.
Yes.
But this is the level of celebrity that is stepping out of these limos here for the Clash of the Champions.
You must be an insider's insider to know who Gary Juster and Elliot Murnick are?
I'm gonna quiz Dave during the mailbag. I'm sure he'll know. He was
probably at the funeral.
I mean, how old was I here?
13.
Yeah. Didn't know Elliot Murnick. There you go.
Our opening contest. Barry Windham versus Brad Armstrong for the U.S. title. It was very clear this was a small arena and they couldn't fill it. But it was a different atmosphere than the usual Saturday night shows. And for a little while, at least, it was a novelty. And they made the crowd that was there, they mic'd them well. Everything had good heat. So they had the most basic pro wrestling match you ever saw. They exchanged holds for a long time. Barry's getting out wrestled, doing subtle cheating things. And finally he hits a power slam, I believe, to take over. He goes right to the figure four, and JJ is cheating, and the fans are just outraged.
Apparently I am just a poor wrestling historian. He was the son of legendary promoter Joe Murnick, who had a long affiliation with the Crockett family and Jim Crockett Promotions, an integral part of the family business, promoted in Raleigh, Norfolk, Hampton, and Richmond, and all points in between. I apologize to Elliot Murnick's family, but I'd never heard of him before.
Yeah.
And he stepped out of this limo, and I couldn't believe my eyes.
So my takeaway from this match, actually, less than anything Barry Windham and Brad Armstrong did, Tony Schiavone and Bob Caudle were a great pro wrestling announce team.
Yeah, I'm way behind here. I was looking up Elliot Murnick here, who now I am a historian. I know who he is. I'm going to read up more about him tonight. But anyway, Tony and Bob Caudle opened the show, and they ran down all the matches for tonight. And Bob Caudle says, "That's a fantastic night right there, Tony." God damn, that made me excited.
And he kept that mood all night.
I was so excited when he was done promoting this event, and then I watched it.
But in this match, it was a fine opener. I don't think I would say it was good. I would say it was fine. Bob Caudle and Tony Schiavone are calling they're calling every moment of the match as if something critical and crucial is happening.
Yes.
A radical change of momentum, or a change of pace, or someone's in even more trouble now. I mean, if you muted them and watched this, it would be a lot of headlocks, some elbows.
Well, what happened in this match early was Brad does a run-up-the-buckle headlock takeover. I knew exactly where they were going. Mm-hmm. Buddy and I did the spot 1,000 times. You run up the buckle and you do the headlock takeover once. You run up the buckle, you do the headlock takeover twice. You run up the buckle a third time, you get back suplexed for the heat.
Yeah.
That's what they did.
Yes.
I saw it coming an hour in advance.
They did it. They also did just the same thing, but the flying headlock without the turnbuckle. Or you just run up, grab the guy's head, jump, and go over.
Sure.
That move needs to come back.
I adored this match.
Yeah.
I thought it was an excellent, basic, professional wrestling opening match.
You know what? This is a good opener.
Yeah.
The opener should not be the best match in the show.
No.
This is the opener.
But seeing as how to finish, I wish it would have gone on last.
That's fair.
Yeah.
The last minute was awesome. Barry misses a top rope elbow, totally goes splat. And Armstrong's running wild. He's hitting drop kicks and punches. And he goes up for the top rope. Goes up to the top rope. He hits the big high cross, and he gets one, and he gets two, and Barry just barely kicks out. And Brad says, "Oh, that I almost had him. If I hit one more, I'll get him for sure." And he goes up for the top again, and he jumps off again, and he hits the high cross, but Barry rolls through and transitions into the claw hold.
The claw.
The dreaded claw.
Barry Windham needs to get rid of this claw.
I don't think the claw's going anywhere, buddy.
Dude, I'm not into this claw.
He's going to feud with Dusty Rhodes. He needs a hold he can sit there with. It's going to be the claw. And Brad Armstrong had no counter for the claw, and he was pinned.
Nope.
The finish was a thing of beauty.
Counter for the claw.
The finish was a thing of beauty. Hey, guess who's back?
Like, what sharp edges do you have on your head that the claw could attach itself to? You know what I'm saying?
Like, there's no way to remove it?
Yeah, like look at your fingers.
Sure.
If you like squeeze your fingers, like you're trying to put your fingers and your thumb together.
Yeah.
Like if you can find something to latch onto, you can hold on. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like if you're rock climbing. What the fuck on there your head do you latch onto? Because you're not latching onto the eye sockets.
Temples, right here.
The temples?
Pinky and thumb.
Oh, come on. Have you seen Dusty's head?
It was about, well, that's actually a good point.
It's ridiculous.
It was about this time. I would have been about 13. My sister would have been about 10. And one day she was annoying me and wouldn't leave me alone. And I did, in fact, put her in the iron claw.
Did it work?
She wept.
Oh, Vinny, what an asshole.
I'm a horrible brother.
Jesus Christ.
I'm a horrible brother.
I never made my sister weep wrestling.
Sunday,
vice versa.
Sunday we'll get her on the show to talk about how dangerous the Iron Claw can be.
Okay.
Yeah.
Next Christmas show.
I'm sorry, Ashley. Anyway, the Rockville Express are back. New clothes, same mullets.
Yeah, first thing Robert does is trip.
Robert trips, almost falls on his face, pulls himself together to do his usual hideous promo, and then Ricky does his usual great promo with really nothing to say except they're back.
Well, he says there's no belts, tag or singles, that are safe when the rock and rolls are around. He should have added, or young women.
So, at the Great American Bash in Baltimore...
Not this one. The good one.
The show?
Oh, this is the Great American Bash.
No, this is the Clash of the Champions.
The Clash of the Champions. I apologize.
Yeah.
I'm at to lunch today.
We're still a month out from the bashes. The main event of the Great American Bash that's going to be on pay-per-view in Baltimore is Ric Flair defending the world title against Lex Luger.
Yes.
For the contract signing here in Miami, they go to the yacht.
What the fuck is with Luger and boats prior to title shots?
Was he on a boat last time?
The
battleship or the aircraft carrier.
Yeah, slamming Yokozuna on the Intrepid.
That was a much better day for Lex than this one was.
He's on a yacht here. Then he goes on the Intrepid.
Mm-hmm. This one's called the Black Hawk.
The Black Hawk.
Amazing. The Black Hawk's owner has a boat called the Black Hawk.
Who would have ever thought? He should have called it the Black Yacht. Not the Black Hawk Yacht.
So they were desperate to fill time. This video of his staff and servants doing the most menial tasks.
Dude, they're on a boat. I swear to God, it looks like the beginning of some 80s porn.
Yeah.
There's just no women. Just a bunch of
this is the worst porn I ever saw.
Jacked up dudes on a boat.
I hate this porn.
It's just ridiculous. And Jim Crockett's Jr.'s there.
This is not improving the porn.
Horrible porn.
This is not improving the porn.
He goes, this is the most important match I've ever signed.
Yeah.
I was like, what?
July the 10th. Not July. July.
Yes.
It'll be Flair defending the title against Luger. Lex is just sitting there. The Horsemen all come in. They're all there in suits. Flair's got like the red jacket on again, I think. And
I hope not.
And
never wear the same outfit twice when you're a superstar.
And Crockett says, here's the contract. Lex, please sign. And Lex signs. Rick, please sign. And Rick signs. And Lex quietly mumbles something about how he's waited a long time for this opportunity. He's going to prove he's the best. Flair just warns Lex the match is for July the 10th, but the bashes start June 26th, and you might not even make it to Baltimore. And the Horsemen leave, and that's it.
That's it, baby.
That's it. So back at the building, Jim Ross is there waiting for Flair to arrive. Flair shows up. Flair and Arnold Tully are in the limo. They're all in tuxes. JJ was already there, and I realized because he had to be there for the Barry match at the beginning. So that makes sense. But they're all happy to see each other. They're all dressed up in their pay-per-view best, their national TV best. And Flair vows that Tully and Arn will win tonight and reminds us that Lex might not make it to Baltimore. So they do the ring intros then for the Fantastics and the Sheepherders. But before the match starts, they go to the back to show Lex Luger arriving. A limo pulls up. Out steps Lex Luger in a white tuxedo.
He was dressed like Naito.
I suppose he was.
The only time you'll ever see that comparison.
Unless we find Lex on a really bad hair day.
It could be, yeah.
But that would be it.
I mean, that's all of the late 90s.
That's true. Lex immediately steps out of this limo. He's wearing all white. It's very clear what's going to happen. The Horsemen waste no time. They zoom in and attack him. It's 5-on-1 with all four Horsemen and J.J. Dillon. Lex ends up bleeding, everybody.
Dude, Luger never bled.
No.
But I think Rick actually cut him.
That's entirely possible.
I think that's what happened. And I just love that. Oh, fuck, I gotta cut myself tonight. I'm going to wear all white head to toe. The only thing he was missing was white gloves, like Dr. Death was wearing later.
Yeah.
Man, he's bleeding. Ross is screaming for help. Luger's got absolutely no friends.
No.
Nobody comes to help him. He gets his ass handed to him, and they take him to the hospital. Sad.
So, the Lex Luger Ric Flair program starts with a blood stoppage.
Basically, yeah.
Foreshadowing. Now it is time for the Fantastics and the Sheepherders. Easily, by far, the best thing on the show.
You know, the Fantastics are pretty fantastic, but they're no sheep herders. These goddamn sheep herders are the best team ever. They were so fucking great at running the show here. Like, they get the heat, and every now and then the babyfaces would just do some sort of comeback. And sometimes they do something stupid. Like, I can't remember who it was. I think it was Fulton. They got the heat on Fulton.
The blonde one.
And he starts to make a comeback, and he does like a fucking headlock takeover.
And his comeback.
What? Like, you're in the middle of getting the heat, and he's got to fire up, and he does a headlock takeover, and Butch just scratches his eyes. Just keeps going. Like nothing happened.
Yeah.
Because nothing should have happened there. He shouldn't have done a headlock takeover. They were so good in this match. They beat the hell out of these guys. Come back, they cut him off again.
They went about 20 minutes and probably had a dozen hot tags.
There were a lot of hot tags
Which
in this
sounds
match.
horrible, but they were working so hard it all worked.
It was they did start to lose the crowd a little bit there at the end.
And then they immediately went to the finish.
Yep, but it was very different from what you see in WWE, where
Yes.
it's a very, very basic pattern in every single match.
Yes, this was different. My favorite part was, but even before the real heat, there's a four-way breaks out, and the sheep herders go for like a double clothesline, but Fulton ducks it and comes back with a high cross on both. Both guys go down, and even though this is against all the rules of wrestling, the ref drops down and counts 2. And the sheep herders kick out, but as Fulton rolls off, there's Rogers to do his own splash, and the ref counts 2. And they just keep going. And the more they do one splash, and the ref counting 2 men down, and a kick out, and a splash, and 2 men down, and they kick out, the more they do it, the more crazy the crowd goes.
Because it was ridiculous.
It was totally ridiculous, but it was awesome.
So they finally tried to use a chair behind the ref's back.
There's a key for this. It went back and forth the whole time until they're doing, the live P guy is saying 15 minutes gone, 15 minutes to go. 15 minutes in, they throw Rogers into the guardrail and hit him with a belt and hit him with a chair. Now they actually have the heat for real. But then 2 minutes later, they try to use a chair. It backfires. They bonk each other with a chair. We get the real hot tag. And Fulton just hits an O'Connor roll out of nowhere.
Dude, we got the real hot tag, and the real hot tag lasted like 10 seconds.
About.
And Fulton does his reverse rolling cradle.
Mm-hmm.
And the weirdest thing ever, he hits it on Luke. Butch dives in, appears to break it up. The ref counts 3 anyway.
Yeah.
It's over.
It's over. You have won.
And what?
And they just kept brawling.
There was so much stuff about this match that was like weird when you think about, like if you're used to watching just WWE matches,
Yeah,
where they're very slick. This was ugly, but it was awesomely ugly.
It was believably ugly.
And the finish was like, photo finish type of finish.
Yeah.
You never see that in WWE.
No.
Someone breaks it up, but like they just barely miss it. Ref counts 3 anyway, unless it's like a fuck up. So I thought this match was excellent.
This was tremendous.
Not a perfect match, but it was an excellent tag team encounter. The best thing on the show.
Yes. Oh, boy. Dr. Death comes out in a tux to do commentary.
What the fuck was he wearing? Is he like a high-end mover?
Was he was also in a tux. He had white gloves on. I don't know why.
White gloves?
Was he... I have no idea why he was wearing white gloves.
He cut the most fucking horrible promo.
This was awful.
It was, and even apologized in the middle of it, admitting, I'm tripping all over myself.
He's talking about Lex. I don't know much about his conditions, he says. Then he started to mumble, I'm all tongue-twisted. It's all about the 4 horsemens.
The horsemans.
4 horsemens.
Yes.
I can only assume he is wearing white gloves because he is, in fact, a doctor.
I think maybe his hands were just covered in coke. Is that possible?
That would explain the promo.
It was a bad promo. I don't think his hands were covered in coke, but it was terrible.
He was there at ringside to do commentary for the Varsity Club versus the Garvins with Kevin Sullivan in a cage. This fucking thing.
Before that, they cut backstage.
Yes.
We got an update from Jim Ross.
Yes.
Let's go to Jim for the update. Go to Jim Ross. I have no update. But I hope to have an update later.
His update is...
Back to the ring.
The Horsemen had a lot of glee, a lot of happiness, and I heard one of them say, our plan worked. This was premeditated.
No shit.
Yeah. Thanks, Jim. Rick Steiner is still Florida champion for whatever reason. Never defends it. No one ever wants to challenge for it, but he has it. So The whole match is just Sullivan is in his cage, smiling.
Yes, Sullivan is locked in a cage to just stay out of the way.
Theoretically.
Precious has the key to the cage.
Sure.
Now, why he's in a cage and she was given the key,
Never explained.
I don't know what's going on here.
No.
This didn't make any sense.
No. But since the whole match is focused on those two, Sullivan,
And he has claimed that she will unlock him.
Right.
Okay.
They mentioned that in promos before. So he's smiling and waving at her. He appears to have some sort of letter he's trying to get her attention
Yes,
with.
he has a letter.
Now she is smiling back at him. And every once in a while, Jimmy jumps off the apron to make sure she is okay and jumps back in. So I think these guys knew that the camera's going to be on Sullivan the entire time. So let's not do anything.
They didn't do anything for a long time.
Like the whole match.
First 10 of the 15 minutes. I got to say that I think... Well, first off, Jimmy got the hot tag. And as he's running wild, Precious walks over to the cage. Sullivan's been beckoning her the entire match. She's got this key, which is like this little tiny key. So she walks over there, and much happens at once.
Oh, my God.
He snatches the key from her.
Well, he grabs her.
No, he snatched the key from her.
Okay.
Yes. Well, he has to get out before he can grab her.
Well, he grabbed her by the wrist.
So I think...
You just said the key was that big. You can't grab the key without grabbing her.
They didn't explain what was supposed to be happening here. I think what was supposed to happen was she wanted the letter,
I guess.
but she didn't want to let him out.
I guess.
So she was going to go over there and pretend that she was going to let him out, but then grab the letter.
Okay.
But before she had a chance, he grabbed the key and began to unlock the cage.
Okay.
He gets out of the cage. He starts choking her to death.
At this point, as he's got his hands on her throat, the announcers shout, "The match is over with the pin. The Garvins will win."
Yeah, I don't know who, what, when, where, why, or how.
That's all we know.
Yes, some Garvin won somehow on some
With a pin on somebody.
Yes. So Steve Williams doing commentary can take no more. He hits the ring. He beats up Sullivan. He saves Precious. But she is furious. She yells at Dr. Death. She yells at Jimmy. And she walks out. What in God's name is going on?
I have no clue.
Nobody had any idea what was going on. I mean, do we ever find out?
I don't remember.
I'm not sure if we find out or not.
Don't know. The only thing I liked about this entire segment is the match is pointless, leads to nothing. It was all just a backdrop for the angle to happen. The angle sucks. Everyone's confused. But among all this chaos, it's still a sport. And so the referee must raise Jimmy Garvin's hand. And he does.
Yes.
Thank you. At least acknowledge that someone won the sporting event. We had a recap of the Powers of Pain laying out the Road Warriors at the bench press contest 6 months ago. And then they announce a series of scaffold matches have been signed. I hope you all were not looking forward
Okay.
to the Warlord and Barbarian being in scaffold matches.
All right, so I hate to give spoilers here, but I just couldn't help myself. So just quickly reading through her Wikipedia, it doesn't appear this angle ever goes anywhere.
Great.
They kind of just continue on for a few more months, and then she vanishes for 4 years.
Cool. I can't wait.
I need to get Sullivan on the show. I gotta find out what the fuck was going on here. Like, what's the plan? That never happened. Why did this go awry?
So the real news, after these scaffold matches, we have our first glimpse of the plans, the blueprints
Oh,
for the Tower of Doom.
I'd like to add that this Precious thing, it weighs more heavily on me than that stupid envelope that Baby Doll and Dusty. Remember that whole deal?
Oh, I do. That also went nowhere.
Yeah, but this is bigger. This is a bigger deal to me.
Well, this is a woman's health and safety at stake.
Yeah, but everyone just remembers the stupid envelope. What about this one?
I don't know.
I never hear people talking about this one, where it was going.
I don't have an answer to that one. So Tony and Bob hold up a diagram.
Yes.
We should have produced one for this show to hold up for the camera.
Well, you don't need one. All it is it's a triple cage.
3 on top of each other, yeah.
There's one arrow that says 40 feet.
Yes.
Okay. And then there are 2 arrows that point to, quote, trap doors.
Yes. Yes.
Is this a fucking cartoon?
Yes.
A trap door?
Yes. So they're explaining there will be...
Is there a box with a stick? You go under and they yank that stick and you get stuck in the box?
Dude, the whole thing is the box.
Is there a hole with sticks over it somewhere in this cage?
It might be. So there's 2 ladders and 2 teams and 5 men each. And you got to go through the trap door and the other trap door. And the third cage, Precious is the key. And the winner is the team that gets all 5 men out. Now, if they had just stopped right here...
It'd be forgettable.
Yes. And then it became awesome. Because you'll recall, Sullivan has said that this is like ancient China.
He said there had been
Singapore.
2 before.
Yes.
One had taken place at a clash, I believe. Or no, he said
at a bash.
At a bash, which never happened.
No.
And the other, he said, occurred 2,300 years ago in China.
Yes. So they produced what I can only assume was a 2,300-year-old parchment.
Yes.
And they called it a parchment many times.
Bob Caudle, playing announcer in the most professional, calm manner possible, says, I have a parchment here.
Yes. And together, with the help of his colleague, Tony Schiavone, they took out a scroll and unrolled this parchment. And there's this sketch of a Tower of Doom that appeared to be composed out of bamboo.
This was so preposterous.
But, you know what? They were not joking about this. They were factual. They were news anchors. They were not making a joke out of it, nor were they horrified or intrigued. They were as dryly and professionally as possible explaining this is what a Tower of Doom will be. I love professional wrestling. There is no other art form where something this ludicrous, this zany, would be announced so casually, and then we would all move on.
So I've gone onto eBay here, and I'm looking for anything that's 2,300 years old. Okay, I have found this from the Han Dynasty, an archaic bronze. I guess it is 24 karat gold inlay. $16,000. Or it says, best offer. Let's see what else we have here.
I put in Tower of Doom parchment, and it's bringing up an amusement park ride.
Well, the point of this is, like, first off, I mean, it wasn't even in a glass case. This 2,300-year-old fucking parchment. Are you kidding me?
I found...
You know how much it would cost?
I found the chart. I didn't find the parchment.
Let's see if I can find 2,300-year-old parchment. What way look? Auction? Let's see if an auction site.
Oh my god, I forgot this. There was an NWA play-by-mail game. Not even play-by-mail. Do you know about oh god, what's the card game with the wrestlers called? Champions of the Galaxy.
Sure, yeah.
Okay. There was a NWA version of that. It was not the same game, but the same concept. You roll dice, you check your chart, see what move you did, and you can do this. I've totally forgotten this until right now, because I had the game. There was a Tower of Doom rule set. And it's right here.
Let's see.
You're not nearly as thrilled by this
I'm looking
as I
at
am.
parchment. I was making sure parchment had even been invented 2,300 years ago. 3000 BC it was invented. So historically, they're accurate. But looking on eBay here, I mean, parchment ain't that expensive. So, I mean, maybe... Here's a very old French manuscript on parchment from 1384. Only $525. I think I should buy myself an antique parchment. Put it here on the wall.
It's not a bad plan.
What do you think?
But
I see nothing prior to the year 1000. Medieval parchment, 1471, $299. That thing could have fucking plague on it. Okay, here we go. This is a little bit closer. Antique, complete Torah Bible scroll manuscript on deer parchment.
Deer parchment.
Now, this is still 1600 AD. $49,000. Whew. All right, let's move on before I fall down this rabbit hole.
Yeah, also, the game had the boot camp match, where if you rolled a 2, you could do the kamikaze dive, both roll for DQ, and boot camp match. And the steel cage, if you roll a 2, Flying double loaded elbow to the groin.
All right, can we move on?
No, I'm more.
Get out of here, Vinny.
This is more fun than talking about Nikita Koloff and Al Perez.
Oh, come on. Al Perez looked great in this match. He's a boring guy, but goddamn, he got a decent match out of Nikita, who was horrible in this match.
And skinny.
God bless this guy.
Like Al Perez was a big, muscular man, but you never look at him, especially in the 80s when he's out there with the Road Warriors and the Powers of Pain. You never look at him and say a monster.
No.
He was way bigger than Nikita here. So we're 90 minutes in the show. I'm watching a bunch of arm ringers.
You're watching the most painfully botched spot I've ever seen.
What the hell?
By Nikita. I don't know. But he fucked it up and Al just started beating on him. He didn't even skip a beat. I had great respect for Al Perez here.
That's a hell of a silver lining you have found.
Al Perez's character saw this big Russian fuck up a move and just stomped a mud hole in him for it.
Tony or Bob, I'm not sure, noticed that being a pro wrestler is a really tough life to lead. That's true.
Yes.
So Nikita's out here doing sunset flips, the Russian nightmare, doing flippy doos.
He's trimmed down. He's a high flyer now.
Yeah. And they announce there's 10 minutes to go, and then Larry Zbyszko just runs in for the DQ.
Horrible.
Absolutely horrible.
Everybody beat on Nikita. He has no friends. He was triple teamed. Very similar to the Horseman beating. They left him for dead. And that was that. The only thing I loved in this match was one point Nikita's outside. Gary Hart slams his head in the table. It's the most calm, violent slam of a head in a table I've ever seen. He didn't even break a sweat. He calmly grabbed the man and he slammed his head into the table and he calmly just turned around. I love Gary Hart. He is awesome.
He is awesome. Main event, Dusty Rhodes and Sting versus Tully Blanchard and Arn Anderson for the World Tag Team Championships.
Well, I'll say something about this match. We've been watching all the studio shows. Sting comes out and the place just goes crazy for him.
Yeah.
Dusty comes out and he's booed.
Often.
The people are sick of Dusty Rhodes.
Except
they're in Miami.
Yeah.
This motherfucker came out and he was a god. He was so fucking over here. They went batshit crazy for this guy.
It was ridiculous.
Like 10 times louder than anybody else on the show.
Yeah.
Just went nuts for him.
That is a fact.
He didn't do anything. They went nuts.
Almost literally nothing.
What a life.
Highlights for Sting here. He may have seriously been the largest guy I've ever seen do the flying head scissors.
And it looked great. He leaped up there. That's a hard move.
I remember you saying, and you would do Hurricane Rana.
I was a gymnast. I was a competitive gymnast. I could never figure this fucking move out. Mm-hmm. Sting did it.
And he was not a small man.
No.
No. He also did...
And he was doing it on men smaller than him.
Yes. He did a Stinger Splash and threw the biggest party you've ever seen by anyone who has just hit a Stinger Splash.
Yeah.
He was so happy. So Dusty spends most of the match on the apron doing nothing. Sting gets DDT'd on the floor, and then we get a hot tag a minute later anyway, and Dusty does a couple of DDTs. He did one hell of a big elbow. I will say that.
Oh my God. He did an
elbow.
Otis Dozovich big elbow.
It was actually.
Yep.
Just crushed him.
Yep, it was awesome.
That was awesome. And then
Dusty didn't do anything, but what he did very well.
That is true.
Like the 3 moves.
Yeah.
He did the elbows. Although he does these punches. They're fucking hideous.
Especially the ones in the corner.
He puts his arm out to the side and he stomps and goes. It looks like Sid.
Kind of.
But for some reason, the place just loves them.
Well, it's Dusty. They're 1% more graceful than Sid. You know what it looks like? It's a one-armed Mongolian chop. Or
yes.
Rotating, because he's right.
No, it's a closed fist Mongolian chop.
Closed fist Mongolian chop.
Yes.
One at a time.
Yes.
But the same arm motion.
Yes.
So
I guess he was a pitcher.
He plays a baseball player. So it may have been it may have been his delivery. I think that's a stretch. Regardless, the referee gets in his way. So
He just throws him out.
Kinda. What happens is he puts his hands on him and gives him a little shove, and Teddy Long does the most over-exaggerated fly through the ropes.
Yeah.
This exposed the business, Brian.
Yes. A lot of this match did.
And then I don't know why they bothered, because then they just had Flair and Wyndham attack for the DQ anyway.
Dude, this place is going down. I mean, 2,400 and a 6,000 seat building. Fucking DQ in the semi-main. Fucking DQ in the main event. baby faces get beaten up with no friends. I mean, like, I liked the opener, but nobody else did. Thought it was boring. I don't know, dude. I watched the show, and it's like, this place is going down the tubes.
And this is a special.
Yeah.
This is a semi-big deal.
A TBS special here. And this place is spiraling down that drain. Man, it's kind of sad to watch there at the end.
Yeah.
It's like, fuck, you guys are dying and you're still doing this shit in the main event. Like, even WWE pretends like they're going to stop doing this shit. Mm-hmm. You're just doing the same stuff. So, yeah, that was sad. Man, Dusty was super over. Sting was very stingy. I don't know what else to say.
I can't argue with you.
I mean, I don't know.
He really was.
And I mean, you pretty much foreshadowed it, but you watch this show and you watch the yacht and you watch the beating, and it's like, Luger's got to be winning in July. He's got to be the next world champion.
They need a savior.
They couldn't possibly do a bullshit fuck finish in that match, right? We'll soon find out, everybody.
I sure wouldn't.
We'll soon find out. But there you go, everybody. That's Clash of the Champions. I watched it for you guys. Next week, back to TV for shit jobbers.
That's right.
Much more exciting.
It will be better.
This place feels alive when dudes are killing shitty jobbers.
And shouting about it.
Yeah, when you see the big shows, you realize it's dying.
Yeah.
That's sad. All right, everybody, we're going to wrap it up.
So let's get funky like a monkey.
And buy one for your friend.
All right, now we can get going here. Do you know we have a YouTube page? Fuck it. Let's go.
NWA World Championship Wrestling, June 11th, 1988. It opens with Dusty Rhodes and Sting doing their entrance in the Clash of Champions. And I thought to myself, man, that was a crappy show. So then in the next segment we get, the announcers are in the studio. They're hyping up the bashes. They say one of the key matches of the Great American Bash is going to be student versus teacher, Barry Windham versus Dusty Rhodes for the U.S. title. And they show this confrontation at ringside. And Barry Windham's running his mouth on Dusty. If Dusty were here right now, the things I'd do to him. So Dusty comes out to confront him. Dusty yells at Barry. Barry slaps him. Dusty whips his ass. The place is going nuts. The Horsemen come out to save Barry, but then out comes Sting and Dr. Death and Nikita to even the odds, and the Horsemen bail, and the heroes in the ring, and the bad guys are outside kicking and spitting and snarling, and the place is going crazy. This 5-minute angle was better than anything at the Clash of Champions.
This angle was awesome. And if we look at the show, which we'll do, everyone, that's the plan today. There was a great Sting interview. I guess you could call it great.
Oh, it was great. I'll say it was great.
There was a great fucking Ric Flair promo. There was a good promo by Arn and Tully. Kevin Sullivan did a great promo.
Barry Windham had a great promo on the show.
There's a bunch of great promos on this show. And there were a couple of clips of little angles that were good. But in the Observer from this week, June 20-something, 1988, there was the readers' pages. Back before there was the internet.
Right.
Or if you wanted to bitch, you had to mail a letter to Dave, and then he retyped it on his typewriter.
Yes.
Put in the Observer. It was all about how fucking boring NWA television was. And I read it, and at first I was like, how dare you? But then I really thought about it, and it's like, the show is boring.
Nothing happened on the show.
Like, I mean, the thing is, there's so many bad interviews today that we look back and we're like, this show is saved by these great interviews.
Yeah.
But in the 80s, like, almost everybody was a good interview. So if everybody's a good interview, and thus the interviews don't really stick out on the show, and the rest of it is the rest of this fucking show,
yeah,
it's a boring show.
Yeah. Nothing happened on the show. If you did not miss it, you get caught up by your friends in, I don't know, a minute.
Yeah.
And they say nothing happened. There's one funny part.
They're not just saying this show. They're saying all of the NWA shows.
No, I agree.
There's a lot of those.
It's been a long time since anything noteworthy happened.
Yes.
It used to be, there'd be 90 minutes of squashes, then maybe one good main event.
We ain't getting that.
We're not getting that now.
No. They said up next, The Fabulous Sting.
The Fabulous Sting. The Fabulous Sting faced Rick Allen, which is not Def Leppard's one-armed drummer.
And it is not, everyone, the most notable thing about this match.
No.
We're watching this match, and they suddenly cut to the crowd. And normally they cut to, like, young girls.
Either pretty women
Or 80s girls, 80s women with the hair.
Pretty women, like I said.
Yep.
Or young children.
Yes.
Who are very excited.
And instead, they cut to this guy. I looked at him and I was like, it's fucking Eddie Munster. This guy looks like fucking Eddie Munster.
A grown-up Eddie Munster.
To date myself here.
And he's looking there, smiling, kind of creepy.
Yeah, and it's like he's got the same fucking hair.
Mm-hmm.
He's pale.
Yeah. He's got strange makeup on.
Yes. I'm like, what the fuck? And they alert us, it's Butch Patrick.
It's Eddie Munster.
Who fucking played Eddie Munster? He didn't show up as Butch. He's 34 fucking years old at the time.
Yeah.
And he showed up as Eddie Munster.
Okay, I think TBS is doing a Munsters reboot. So I think this is a promo for that. It's been 30 years. I may be off on this, but I seem to recall something like that happening about this time. So that would make more sense than Butch Patrick saying, hey, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to dress up as my boyhood role and sneak into a wrestling audience and see if I can get on camera.
I don't know, homeboy. The Munsters reboot, August 2017. NBC is rebooting The Munsters.
Certainly not the one I'm thinking of.
I hope not. I gotta find. While you find out that, I have more information for everybody. The show took place in 1988. Okay, 1988. This guy's dressed up as Eddie Munster. There's part of me that just thought, these old school showbiz guys, it's fucking great. You know what I mean?
Yes. Yeah.
The guy. This doesn't exist anymore. So with social media, it's just it's a bygone era. These guys were like always their character everywhere they went. Well, it turns out November 2nd, 1990, Eddie Munster arrested under his real name, which, by the way, his real name was not Butch Patrick.
Oh, come on now.
His real name was Patrick Allen Lilly.
All right.
He was arrested, charged with robbing the driver of a limousine in which he was a passenger of $130. He was living in Austin, but in the Chicago area over Halloween week, making personal appearances. I wonder what he was dressed as. Pleaded innocent to the charges. In a trial, he was charged separately from a fellow passenger in the car. He claimed that he had punched and kicked the limo driver and taken $140 in cash, $10 extra. A woman who was one of his companions that night testified he'd been sitting in the back seat during the attack. He was later found guilty, but acquitted of robbery. 30 months probation for the beating in which he attempted to steal $140. He ended up with a $200 fine, $850 in restitution for the limousine driver, and 100 hours of community service, and, according to Wikipedia, completion of drug and alcohol and whatever treatment was to be directed. Yeah.
Well, it appears the Munsters originally aired from 1964 to 1966, but then in 1987, there was, as it says here, unaired pilot 2.
So it didn't air, dude.
So,
and that was it was a year earlier.
Right, but maybe they filmed it, it didn't air, and maybe he was trying to get it back on the air? All of this makes more sense.
I think he's just a weirdo.
He may just be a weirdo.
In 1973...
He's still acting, by the way.
Arrested for carrying a switchblade knife.
Yeah.
1979 for transporting or selling a controlled substance. And in 1981 for gambling. He was arrested for gambling.
He was on Lidsville.
Yeah, he's been done all sorts of things.
He was on
Vinny.
Shazam.
Yeah, get with the program.
And
anyway, he was here in the studio. He watched Sting win.
Sting won with a splash. I don't know what to say about the match. So then Dr. Death comes out to join Sting for a promo. So I think it was Shivani, whichever interviewer it was, is standing on the floor. And Dr. Death is standing on the floor. Sting is in the ring between them. And he gets down on one knee and shouts, "Is it okay if I talk to you on one knee through the ropes?" Like, sure, Sting, go ahead. And they start going off about the Horsemen and the Bashes.
He's outraged. These four thugs did this to the total package. There will be revenge.
And he gets more and more excited. He starts to climb through the ropes, and it's like a 3D effect. I thought he was going to pop out into your bedroom, your studio here.
He says, "I'm going to show you the veins in my face and my chest."
Excuse me, he says, while I get a little bit closer, shout a little bit louder, show the veins in my chest. And he's going off, and he says some line to throw it to Doc. And Doc says, boy, Sting's fired up today. And as Doc says this, you notice Sting turning his back and coughing.
Yes.
Because he's fired himself up so much he can't even talk. So Doc's going on about whatever. He mentions...
He actually started out okay.
He did?
He started out all right.
Something about staying out late. Staying out late and getting in fights.
Yeah. Sounds like Dr. Death.
It does, actually. She says it's going to be me and Sting and the Road Warriors and Lex Luger and Dusty Rhodes. And he says that, and Sting turns back around and starts doing a Dusty Rhodes impression. If you will. Bull of the Woods, or whatever he says. Doc's thrown off by this. They start to get the wind it up sign, and I know this because Sting says, wind it up, they're saying. I feel like winding Flair's face up. And he leaves, and Doc leaves, but stops to scratch at his nose. I couldn't help but notice that...
No, that's not what happened, Vinny.
All right.
Sting interrupts Dr. Death and throws him off.
Okay.
Dr. Death has now lost his train of thought. He tries to say something. Now he's all befuddled. For the second fucking week in a row, on national television, Dr. Death has to explain to us, I'm tongue-twisted.
That does happen.
And Sting says, I'm like that all the time. And they walk away, and as they're walking away, I don't think he scratched his nose. I think Dr. Death put his hand on his head.
Possible.
And started laughing as they cut away. A disaster, but awesome.
It was a beautiful disaster. That's exactly right. If Doc was scratching his nose there, it was not the first time. He was scratching his nose throughout this promo. Can't imagine why.
It was itching.
I guess so. They re-aired the Four Horsemen attacking Lex Luger at the Clash of Champions, and then J.J. Dillon and Ric Flair come out for a promo.
By the way, they show that footage, and Jim Ross is afraid for Luger's safety in this video, and Tony Schiavone is appalled. They said this video will shock you for years to come. They show the video, and we talked about it last week. We see this every week on Raw. Raw opened with this same angle 2 weeks ago.
Yeah.
You forget it by the end of the show.
Sure.
So this is a different time. Do an angle like this, and I don't think people remembered this for 20 years. Maybe like a couple of weeks.
They remembered it.
It wasn't that...
It was not one of 9 things that happened on a show.
No. It was memorable.
It lasted up until the pay-per-view was designed to promote.
Yes.
So JJ says, listen, what happened did not happen in the arena. It happened in the parking lot. It was a personal matter between the Four Horsemen and Lex Luger. And the fact that it happened outside the arena, that means it's outside the jurisdiction of the National Wrestling Alliance.
That doesn't even make any sense.
No.
It's ridiculous.
Did you know, Brian, that if... it's like... So
when Brett and Sean got in a fight in the locker room, like they shouldn't be reprimanded.
Nothing they can do.
I guess it was in the building.
Or if you are drug tested at your home, that doesn't count.
Yeah, it wasn't
it's not in the building.
Yeah.
So that makes no sense. Then he says, we, the Four Horsemen, we merely wanted to confront Luger verbally. We wanted to explain to him what he was in store for. Lex precipitated things by attacking us so violently, we were forced to defend ourselves.
Yes, he says, this is almost a direct quote, Lex refused to let us confine him for a conversation. I almost died when I heard that one.
So awesome.
Yeah, we weren't going to talk. We needed to confine him, but he wasn't letting us.
So we had to hit him.
We had to kick his ass.
We had to destroy him. It's not our fault. I love bad guys. Real, true, honest-to-God bad guys.
I love JJ.
Yeah. So that's the way it goes. And if Dusty, Sting, and Nikita don't like it, that's just tough. And then Flair starts plugging this match. Ric Flair and Lex Luger in Baltimore, Maryland. I think he said on the 4th of July, which is not the date. It's the 10th of July. But he says Lex has 20 stitches in his eyeball. Sting's going to be next. And then Dusty, then Nikita, then Dr. Death, everyone on that side. He's lived his entire life for this belt. He's gone through women. He's gone through cars. He's gone through bankruptcy. And starts to talk about what he's going to do with Lex Luger. He gets bleeped a lot. By the end of the show, it was clear that anytime a wrestler used the word ass, they were bleeped.
Is that what it was?
I'm pretty sure. That's happened to Flair here.
Flair says, I've got a bandage on my head. It doesn't bother me. When you're the champion, you got to pay the price. We got a date in Baltimore. But before that, we have cage matches, war games, whatever, I don't care. He's friends with all the heels, he notes. They thrive on the blood and guts that make you a man in this sport. Says him and Sting and Dr. Death, the watering hole was nothing compared to this. Says Luger has 20 stitches in his eye. Pretty boy Sting is next. 30 days between now and July 10th, all four of them and the Road Warriors are going to find out firsthand why the Four Horsemen are synonymous with world titles, financial success. And he says, what I'm about to say is the most important thing I have ever told the public. I live and die. I breathe every day for this business. Gone through women, gone through cars, gone through bankruptcy. I've done it to be the best. I'm going to hit Luger on the 10th, break him, squeeze him. He's going to squeeze him.
Mm-hmm.
With what?
His arms.
He's going to hug him?
I guess.
He's going to finish. Well, he gets bleeped. This is awesome.
That was great.
This was someone on the board said this was like a top 5 Flair promo. It wasn't. It was goddamn great. Flair's promos in the 90s, like when he was crazy, his WCW Nitro promos, I think they may be better than his 80s promos. They're different.
They're different. I do feel like his 90s promos, it was the same thing every week.
It was.
These
it was crazy.
Yeah, these I feel like he actually does have some new material. The theme is the same, obviously. He goes down the same path, but he doesn't. It's not the exact same trip every single week. Mm-hmm. Barry Windham versus Curtis Thompson. So, since joining the Four Horsemen, Windham has thrown on the black glove and using the dreaded Iron Claw as a finisher, which is a great hold to use when you're feuding with Dusty Rhodes, because it allows you to both lay there, which is very important for a Dusty Rhodes match. So as a total squash, Windham has a superplex. And he goes over and he high-fives J.J. Dillon to show off he's wearing a loaded glove. And he whips Curtis Thompson in and he hits the big lariat. I thought, okay, you've shown your top rope move with the superplex. You've shown your move off the ropes, your counter move with the lariat. Now it's time to show your submission hold, that Iron Claw, and finish him off. Then he just pinned him.
Well, if you only use one finish, then you can get pops for your near falls.
Well, that's true. So then they go to cut a promo. JJ, you'll notice, has been all over the show already.
Good.
Says the NWA stars compete all over the country for the bashes, all over the world, but they're all going to meet July 10th in Baltimore. And then there he goes. And says, I heard Ric Flair out here. I like to see Ric Flair fired up. I remember when I was going to face Ric Flair, and he was fired up like that with his eyes bulging out, and I started to get nervous. I got butterflies in my stomach because I knew it meant business. And Lex Luger, now you know it means business when Ric Flair's fired up like that. As for you, Dusty Rhodes, I'm not afraid of you. What you taught me is minuscule what I have learned since I've joined the Four Horsemen. It's time for Dusty to move over and let the new kid in town take the wheel.
Never let the new kid take a wheel.
Great promo here by Barry Windham. Great promo here by Barry Windham.
Yes. Then on the screen, the words, Dr. Death explodes in the ring.
Oh, no.
Appeared on the screen. That's what it said. Up next, Dr. Death explodes in the ring.
I hope he's okay.
He killed Trent Knight.
Steve Williams versus Trent Knight.
That guy exploded.
Trent Knight's the one who exploded, yes. It was funny because
he's the poor man's Magnum TA, for those of you that are trying to keep track of your jobbers.
He actually has a hell of a drop kick, but Dr. Death was not having any of it, so he swats it away. He did the easiest press slam I've ever seen. Just lifted this guy skyward and then said, okay, I have no soul to his offense. I've shown that I look like the strongest man in the world here. Now I'm going to wrestle him for a while. And he grappled him, and he cradled him, and he suplexed him, and went all amateur on him. Hit a couple of his spears, which the way he does it is more like a running backdrop. Still the coolest spear I've ever seen. And he let Trent Knight go up top and jump off, and he caught him and hit a stampede for the win. Had a Tully Blanchard promo.
Starts out with David, and he goes, I'm here with a proud set of tag team champions. These men are proud of what they've done to Lex Luger. Tully's like, will you shut up and do your job?
Just hold the mic.
And then he did his promo.
He was so awesome.
So one of the things about this Luger deal that all of the heels are mentioning, JJ mentions it, Tully mentions it, Arn mentions it later. They have bloodied him up. He has been disfigured. His pretty facade has been ruined. He can no longer go to Hollywood. And they are full of such glee that they have busted open his pretty face and made him ugly. So simple.
Yeah. So Tully says here, if Sting wants to call them out, he can be the next one to get 40 stitches in the parking lot. And if any of you don't like it, you come find the Horsemen in War Games. The start of that match, we'll take on all of you in that one. It says, we're the best at anything at 4 a.m.
It's probably true.
I'm sure it is.
Except sleeping.
And he goes to Arn. Arn says, this is no laughing matter. Lex Luger, when you were the Horseman, you always were so pretty and always proud of how great you looked. Well, it's no laughing matter. You're not pretty anymore. Your head looks like mine. Only I don't care. I was never going to Hollywood. All I wanted to be was a wrestler. And this leads to Tully Blanchard versus Dave Spearman.
JJ's on commentary cackling at the idea they disfigured Lex Luger. He can no longer go to Hollywood.
So this is awesome. Dave Spearman is a jobber. Dave Spearman is out here every week getting his ass kicked. And as long as he's on the show, he'll be out there every week getting his ass kicked. But he got an idea this week. And he holds out his hand to Tully for a handshake. And Tully looks a little confused and starts to extend his hand in return. And Spearman pulls it away, like Flair would always do. And Tully laughs, but then holds out his hand and says, no, shake my hand. Shake my hand. Shake my hand. And Spearman doesn't want to do it. And finally he does. And Tully grabs him and he just mauls him. Not like he's shooting on him or embarrassing. He's working with him, but he's super, super, super aggressive. Because this guy went on TV and tried to embarrass Tully Blanchard. And if you try to embarrass Tully Blanchard, he's going to teach you a lesson. So it all made sense.
A wrestling lesson.
A wrestling lesson. Beat him and beat him and beat him. Frankly, it went on too long, and he won with the slingshot suplex. Kevin Sullivan versus Bob Riddle.
Oh, my Lord.
I don't know what Bob Riddle did. I didn't see him
He existed.
teasy handshake, but he was in just the wrong place at the wrong time, I guess. First, Sullivan grabs him. I can't even say he does a takedown or a slam. He just throws him down, and he gets on top of him, and he starts to beat him like he's on fire, and Sullivan's trying to put the fire out. He's just hitting him and hitting him and hitting him and hitting him as hard as he can. Throws him outside.
Dude, he throws him outside. He hits him with chairs.
Yes.
He pulls at his eyeball.
Yes.
He gouges his eyes. He bites the man.
Yes.
He waffles him with foreign objects.
He's throwing him into furniture, throwing furniture into him.
Teddy fucking Long, the referee, is just standing there. And finally, Teddy Long says, watch the hair. As Sullivan is going for a headbutt. I was like, you son of a bitch. That's the one fucking rule you care about. He's killing this guy.
So he clotheslines him on the floor. He does the foot stomp on the floor, which is his finish. And he throws him back in and just hits him with a clothesline. Not like a lariat where you're running at the guy like a sickle. He throws the guy in the ropes. He holds his arm out and lets Bob Riddle run into it. And then he pins him. Kevin Sullivan squashes are awesome.
So Kevin Sullivan goes to cut a promo. And he says, well, first he's asked, what was that paper that Patty wanted last week? She was trying to get a paper from you when you were in the cage.
Yes.
He says, it was just a note that goes way back. Let's talk about this Flair Luger match. He says, everybody has stopped telling the truth here about the deal with Patty. He says, and by the way, he never talked about the Luger match with Flair. He just moved on again.
Yeah, a little bit. You know.
He says, Patty used to drive my car, eat at my table, and sleep in my bed, he says. Mm-hmm. It's real simple. It's happened to every man in America. Some slime ball comes over.
It has?
It starts with cocktails, then tea, afternoon tea. The next thing you know, she's moved out living in another address.
I feel like there's got to be some steps he's missing here.
So he's going to take out Jimmy Garvin. There's no place to hide. You took something that was very precious to me, he says, and then you mocked me by calling her precious. Her name is Patty, and the beating I gave this kid is cookies and milk compared to what I'm going to do to you. I'm going to take your eye and make a keychain out of it. He storms off.
Fantastic.
Now, this show was 30 years ago. It's over and done with. In fact, there's an angle that it doesn't even end. They never conclude this angle. Mm-hmm. But it still pains me to give the spoiler here about where this storyline was going. But thanks to R.D. Reynolds, who talked to Kevin Sullivan about this over WrestleMania weekend, Precious was going to be his sister.
Ah.
That was going to be the big payoff at the end. They were little kids. They grew up together. That's why she slept in his bed.
I see.
He didn't say they had sex.
Never did.
They just slept in the same bed. She drove his car. She ate at his table. Now that you listen to the whole thing, when you listen to all of his promos, they're all going to make sense now. But that's where it was going to go, but it never went there. And by the way, on that note of angles that never concluded, so earlier they were running down, or maybe it's later, they're running down the upcoming big shows, and we've got the Tower of Doom match, and it might have been next, actually. When did they start running down the card? Anyway.
For Baltimore.
So they run down, there's going to be a Tower of Doom match, there's going to be cage matches, and they note there's going to be scaffold matches.
There sure are.
And earlier in the show, they had shown the footage of the Road Warriors being taken out by the Powers of Pain, and they're building up all these Road Warriors Powers of Pain matches. That's going to be a scaffold match.
Yes.
Well, this is the week the Powers of Pain walked out.
Fuck you and fuck your scaffold match.
That's literally why they left.
Yeah.
They did not want to fall off that fucking scaffold and kill themselves. And it's not like you can blame them.
No.
Because people got hurt every time they did these stupid fucking scaffold
And the people who
matches.
got hurt didn't weigh 300 pounds.
Fucking Warlord. Warlord is going to fall off a fucking scaffold?
No, he's not.
No. They left. They went to WWE, and I guess we'll find out about it next week. But there's another one, never got paid off.
Yeah.
Who can blame them?
No, I don't blame him.
Fuck that.
I full credit. I'm proud of them. God bless them. Saying, no, I'm not going to fall off a goddamn scaffold because you booked it. Lex comes out for a promo. His eyes all bandaged up. He said he was in the hospital in the emergency room. And Jim Crockett asked what Lex wanted him to do. And Lex said, I don't want you to do diddly squat. And the police were there. And he said, hell no, he did not want to press criminal charges. The sentence for the Nature Boy Ric Flair takes place in Baltimore on July 10th. And he runs down Flair for a long time. Here is where I figured out it was the word ass that was getting bleeped repeatedly.
Yes.
He promises Flair will sweat and bleed more than he ever has before.
Oh,
He
poor
finishes,
guy.
and he says ass one more time, he gets bleeped, and he storms off. And you've never seen Jim Ross so flustered by profanity.
Yeah.
Some of those things you could say, ladies and gentlemen, but let's go to break.
You know, this is a weird comparison, but you know what Luger's promos remind me of? These WWE documentaries. Like the Nigel McGuinness documentary. I didn't talk about it, but like every one of these documentaries, they do the whole thing and they finally get to the happy ending conclusion. It's like Return of the King. You think it's over, and then there's somebody else that has to say something.
Yes.
And you're like, excellent wrap up. Then someone else comes on,
Yeah.
and it goes like 10 extra minutes that it doesn't really need. Luger's fucking promos are the same way.
Yeah.
He did his big promo, and he wrapped it up, and I was like, excellent promo, Lex. And then he starts going again, and I was like, you pretty much just already said this.
Mm-hmm.
He wraps it up, and he goes again one more time, and by the end, it's like, fucking get out of there, dude. And finally he goes, ass! And then he walks off. I'm like, that's your conclusion? You went on too long, buddy. Take it home earlier next time.
I didn't write it all down. I don't think it's a direct quote, but it's close enough. All right, so Lex leaves. There's not a commercial break here. Lex leaves. There's a brief delay, and then Arn Anderson comes out for his match.
Well, I hope so, because before they went to break, it said, next, the enforcer Arn Anderson, and then Luger came out.
Yeah.
That would have been blatant false advertising.
So Arn, once he's made sure Lex is good and backstage, then he approaches the announcers and says, what you just heard were the rantings of a frightened man. So he gets the ring with Tommy Angel.
Arn was pretty fat this evening.
He was never...
Unflattering attire he was wearing.
Yeah.
You're much thinner than he is right now.
Might have been. Or might be.
How much you at now, Vinny?
About 255.
Vinny looks so skinny at Defy. I thought you were in your 220s.
And as I explained to you, it's because I used to be 320.
I had no idea you were that big.
I
thought you were always around like 285, 290. You got all the way up to 320? Mm-hmm. You were bigger than Craig?
close. I was big, man.
Wow.
Yeah.
So you're down 70 fucking pounds?
Yeah.
Look at you, Vinny. In how many months?
Well, most of it was a couple years ago. I was about 320 in the summer of 2014.
Oh, that's right. And then we did one video and you watched yourself and you were disgusted.
That sounds about right.
Yeah, I remember this now.
So the year
You were
after,
very fat in that video, by the way.
I go back. You ever see shows like Say Yes to the Dress?
Yes.
I did the exact opposite. My wedding photos are the fattest I've ever been.
Wow.
With also one of my worst haircuts, if you can imagine that. But
They're all the same.
not
You
like
don't
this.
have other haircuts.
I had this horrible, supposed to be slick back thing. It was not good. But anyway, point being, I lost a ton of weight that year, and then I kind of plateaued for a couple of years, and then I got a diabetes diagnosis and changed my diet radically. Turns out when you go from eating a lot of sugar to eating almost no sugar, you get small.
Wait, hold on a second.
Yeah.
You're telling me you cut sugar, you lose weight?
I know. I'll say it again because it's kind of confusing, but if you eat a lot of sugar and then you stop and go to almost no sugar, you will be smaller.
And you ate a lot of sugar?
I ate tons of sugar.
Bridget's husband ate a lot of sugar?
Hey, let's not put this on her.
I'm not putting it on her, Vinny, but
I-
I listen, I didn't know you had diabetes, but like, how many times did you come over with fucking cookies? And I said, is she trying to give me diabetes?
Yeah, that happened, but
Yes.
I was a sugar carnivore. I ate a lot of sugar before Bridget.
Sure.
I ate a lot
And
of
you
sugar.
drank a lot of sugar.
I drank a lot of sugar.
You always came over with those drinks,
I did.
those sugary drinks.
I did have sodas for a long time. I switched to diet soda a couple years ago anyway. But anyway, point is I'm smaller now.
Yeah, a lot smaller.
So Arn Anderson versus Tommy Angel.
Smaller than Arn.
The very first spot, Tommy Angel fucks
Was
it up
him giving him a wedgie?
beyond all recognition. I don't know what they were trying, but Tommy whips him in, or Arn whips him in, and Tommy is coming off, and he just throws in the brakes, and then stops and like throws a drop kick that Arn did not know was coming, so Arn didn't sell it. And then Tommy goes splat, and Arn just shakes his head. Now, earlier you recall, I talked about Tully being aggressive but still working with a man. Arn was aggressive here, and he was beating the fuck out of Tommy Angel for
Tommy
fucking
Angel-
this up, making him look so bad.
Terrible. He had the most appalling wedgie. I mean, it was appalling.
Arn's rubbing his face in the cement, just beating him in and out of the ring. And after a while, it looked like he had calmed down and figured he made his point and was going to go back to working with the guy. And then it comes time for this finish, and Arn grabs him by the head, and he hoists him up in the air, and he does a gourd buster, and he slams him down onto his face
He busted his gourd.
on the mat. And I thought to myself, Arn Anderson was a great professional wrestler. I bet when they show this in slow motion replay, it's like Jimmy Garvin's brain buster. It usually looks like he absolutely kills the man and paralyzes him. And then in the slow-mo, they reveal his head was not within 6 inches of the canvas. They showed this Arn Anderson gourd buster in slow motion. It was worse. Tommy Angel may actually be an angel now.
Yeah.
Because I think Arn Anderson murdered him and sent him to heaven. This was awesome. Had a slam of the week?
Hopefully he just died in the NWA universe.
I would like to think so.
He's very healthy now, but we don't have to see him on TV anymore.
Yeah. It was the spam slam of the week was Tommy Rogers power slamming a guy who looked like he ate a lot of spam. This was the segment where they plugged the war games, the scaffold matches, the cage matches, the Tower of Doom, and they did in fact focus here on these scaffold matches. Never before, they said, have there been 4 men this big in a scaffold match. Yeah, no shit.
Are you aware that they have a scaffold match booked and 2 dudes don't want to fall off the fucking scaffold, so they quit? And the Crockett's decide, well, we're just going to run the fucking match anyway and put 2 more guys in there.
I forget who it is. Midnight Express, I assume.
No, it's like Koloff.
I think
somebody.
They find somebody and throw him under a mask. He's like the Russian scorpion
Yes,
or
something like
assassin
that.
or something. Midnight Express versus Bob Emery and Ryan Wagner.
Before this, they announced it. Coming up next, Jim Cornette, and Jim Ross rolls his eyes. He didn't have to say anything. He just rolled his eyes.
So the highlight of the match here is Jim Cornette on commentary. He too is talking about his new training regimen. So he's been working
He
with
looked very lean, too.
Cornette.
Yeah.
Yes.
That was the skinniest I ever saw him in my life.
Been working out with Stan Lane, who of course is in phenomenal shape. He says Stan has me on a high carb, high pectoral, low hostess Twinkie diet. And
It's a good one, I guess.
as a result of this, his bench is up to 433 and a quarter. And Ross just says, ounces? And Cornette says, pounds! We're in America! I laughed. The Midnight Express win with a rocket launcher.
Yes.
And then they just flow right into another promo at ringside. The fans are all booing. Cornette buries all these freeloaders out there. He knew the Fantastics were going to give him an opening with that straitjacket, but he can't believe they'd ever want to see a straitjacket again. They re-aired the straitjacket angle. I still think it's awesome. They're just such buffoons, these Fantastics.
God, they're absolute morons.
So
And later, to jump ahead, they do a promo, okay? These two goddamn idiots. And they explain, this is why they were fucking idiots, okay? This is classic. Because Cornette said that he wasn't going to be in there. He wasn't going to be in the building or even in the state. So they put themselves in a straitjacket, and he beat the shit out of him. And so their defense is, he's a liar.
Yeah. Cornette didn't tell
This
the
was like
truth.
J.J. Dillon.
A little bit.
It was ridiculous.
A little bit. By the way, if you do watch this show, you have not seen the straitjacket. The best part is still when Bobby Fulton is in the straitjacket, and they come out and they attack Tommy Rogers first, and all Bobby can do is say, "Oh no!"
So dumb.
Never gets old.
It's so dumb because not only they're stupid fucking baby faces, but even their explanation, their excuse. It's like, you fucking idiots didn't know that Jim Cornette was a liar. You found him trustworthy? You're twice as dumb as I thought you were last week.
So Cornette starts saying he wants the Fantastics at their best, so the Midnight Express can beat him at their best. And this whole time he's insisting he's not crazy, and they're all wrong for thinking him crazy. At the very end, he starts to giggle and blink and go crazy, and then leave. All right, remember when I said the Clash was bad? A crappy show?
Sure.
So they recap the Al Perez-Nikita Koloff match, maybe the worst thing from that Clash.
I liked Al Perez in that match.
And they aired, seriously, 10 or 15 minutes of it here. The only thing of note here is the match was so boring live that I totally tuned out. And I missed it because we talked about when Lyle Alzado showed up at the building. He was there to promote Learning the Ropes, but then we never actually saw him again on the network for some reason. They confirmed here that Lyle Alzado did come out and talk about that show because they were talking about Lyle talking about it and working with the wrestlers and what great athletes they were. That's the only exciting thing that happened in these 10 minutes. Thank God we fast forwarded. Main event, the Fantastics versus the Grappler.
The Grappler.
Who was not the Grappler.
No, this was a low-rent Grappler. It could have been Sean Royal.
A worked Grappler.
Yeah.
It's funny because I look up and say, my God, the Grappler's in powder blue zebra tights.
Yeah.
I look at more, I was like, wait a minute. That's not the Grappler. So, whoever this guy was, he was much better than Joe Cruz, who was not very good. They pinned him with a rocket launcher. And they cut a very angry promo.
Oh, I'd be angry too.
I'm a man, Bobby Fulton
made
says.
to look like that big a fool.
I can take a beating, but Jim Cornette is a mouse. Step in the ring, Cornette. Try to be a man. This is where they said...
So let's recap what's happening here. These two idiots, one fucking idiot put the other fucking idiot in a straitjacket.
Yes.
And they were beat up by the heels.
Yeah.
Okay. They come on TV the next week. They blame it on Cornette being a liar.
Yeah.
Because they trusted him.
And a weasel.
And then they challenge the manager to a fight.
Right.
Dude.
That did happen.
This is what happened. I'm not making any of this up.
They say, we got up for that beating. We're still here. So the straitjacket match is going to be, it's a tag team match, but Cornette is in a straitjacket in a cage hanging above the ring. And so I guess...
He has to be in a straitjacket and a cage?
They said he was hanging above the ring.
Dude.
I'm assuming you're not going to put him in a harness. Just have him...
I just don't understand why, if you're in a fucking straitjacket, they have to further confine you in a cage. What's he going to do?
It was the 80s.
Get in the ring and start rolling around? Do log roll spots on everybody?
So they say when we beat the Midnight Express and they got to lower Cornette out of the sky, just think what we're going to do to him.
Yeah, bully him, you two idiots.
That was the end of the show.
That's the end of the show. Ay, ay, ay. What? These two guys. So anyway, this place is still negotiating with Turner. Buyout talks. It's going to be happening here soon. Apparently, at this date, they were far apart on money. I guess the Crockett's wanted more than they ended up getting. But shit happens when you're losing a lot of money. You gotta take what you're given. So we'll follow that story, everybody. We'll let you know if in the end, Turner buys Jim Crockett Promotions. Stay tuned here only at WrestlingObserver.com.
Place your bets.
And there will be gorilla shit all over down there.
We also watched NWA World Championship Wrestling from June 18th, 1988.
This was not as good as Halftime Heat.
No.
No.
Not
sure it was better than Super Bowl.
Parts of, in a different
Arguable.
way. You know what? They had in common, they were both ugly.
Yes.
This show and the Super Bowl were both ugly.
I want to know if Maroon 5 was better than Precious when she did her interview at the halftime of this show.
I would say no.
Precious was better?
Yeah.
Wow. Whew. I need to go back and watch this now.
It's out there. It would not be hard to find.
Where can I see the Super Bowl halftime?
It would not be hard to find, I'm sure. So it opens with clips of Lex Luger. He's fighting that one jobber who looks like Scott Norton. Can't remember his name.
Big Bear Collie.
That was it. Yeah.
Yes.
And he pins him with an elbow drop.
Yeah.
I guess because Big Bear was too big to be in the torture rack.
Well, Luger's got very bony elbows. I don't know if you've ever noticed.
Well, this is even before his motorcycle wreck. So before it was the loaded elbow. And then Ric Flair beat up Ricky Santana. I believe beat him with a figure 4.
They're basically doing a video package for the match.
Yeah.
Showing them beating dudes up.
Great. What a novel idea.
You know.
Our opener.
Well, first we have Jim Ross and David Crockett opening up the show. They say that we got some matches tonight. That's good to know. Paul Jones also has a big surprise.
Oh, does he ever?
It is literally a big surprise. And he explains to us that Tony Schiavone is not here. He's in Baltimore, but he's going to be here next week. What the hell is he doing in Baltimore? Like, I know that's where the match is.
This is something about a press conference or a contract signing or something.
I see. Well, I mean, Flair and Luger were here, so that's hell of a contract.
They said Tony Schiavone and Sting were there. I guess that's true. And we saw them sign the contract anyway in the boat.
Okay, yeah.
So Tony Schiavone and Sting were in Baltimore for Bash-related activities.
I see, okay.
All right, Fantastics versus Curtis Thompson and Agent Steel.
Agent Steel.
Agent Steel.
Yes.
Which I feel we should put in all caps all the time.
Like an agent of what? Like the IRS?
I hadn't thought of that.
FBI?
I hadn't thought of that.
What agent is this? I mean, that's clearly why he wears a mask.
I don't have an answer. TSA?
It could be. There wasn't one then.
No. When we think of guys who beat up jobbers in this era, Ronnie Garvin most obviously comes to mind. Rick Rude used to be great at it. Kevin Sullivan beats the shit out of dudes every week. We don't normally think of the Fantastics.
It was only one. It was Tommy Rogers.
Oh, I see. Well, yeah.
Yes.
Tommy Rogers gets in there. He's working with Curtis Thompson, who is the biggest dude in the match. And he gets Thompson up in a fireman's carry. And I think, okay, it's a 1980s babyface. He's going to throw this guy over on his back and keep the arm hooked for an armbar. No. Tommy Rogers does the most violent Samoan drop I've ever seen. He jumps in the air. He throws the dude backwards. He gets his own feet and ass high into the sky, so all of his weight comes down to Curtis Thompson.
It's brutal.
I was surprised. I thought it had to be a mistake or something. Oh no! It was clear as the match went on. This was not a mistake.
Then he did a senton.
He did a somersault senton onto Agent Steel.
Yeah.
I hope he actually is made of steel.
This is not like Jeff Hardy, where like Jeff used to do the one where you kind of do a roll so you barely touch the guy.
Yes.
It's the way I used to do it. And then Jeff got older and his back started to mess him up, so he just started squishing guys.
Sure.
But at least he'd still be laid out. So when he squished him, like usually like his feet would hit the mat at the same time.
Right, yes,
So you're
yes.
taking a little bit of, you're still squishing the guy, but it's not so bad.
Yeah.
Tommy Rogers just does like a cannonball.
Exactly. He's
He
curled up into a ball.
Leaps into the air.
Does a somersault.
Does a full tuck and just fucking squishes Agent Steel.
God. There was
Hopefully
also
he had abs of steel. Maybe that's why he's called Agent Steel.
there was also a point. I don't know what happened, but Fulton went to give Agent Steel a backdrop, and it looked like I don't even know how to describe this, but like as Fulton's bent over and as he stands up to throw Agent Steel backwards, instead of Steel's belly being on his back and flipping over, Steel's knees were on Fulton's shoulders. So he gets up like a cheerleader almost that high and just flips over onto his back.
The only thing I got to say about this match, rocket launcher finisher.
That's all I got, yeah.
The only thing I got to say is that the Fantastics are such pure baby faces that they will have a guy by the wrist and the guy will tag his partner and they will immediately let go.
There's rules.
Because the moment he touches his partner's hand, he's no longer legal.
That's right.
You must let go of the man.
That's right.
I love that. Allow me, Vinny.
Okay.
This Kevin Sullivan promo. Kevin Sullivan is standing there and he's with David Crockett. And you can see that behind him, he's got a
diagram.
Well, it's on one of those easels.
Yeah.
He has an easel, and there's a diagram on it. And you can only see two letters, T-O. You could start to put two and two together. So he begins to explain. At some point, Patty is going to show up, and she's going to tell everybody the truth. And David Crockett says, "Tell me about this diagram." So Kevin Sullivan backs up, and sure as shit, there is a diagram of the Tower of Doom.
Blueprint.
Sketched.
Almost, yes.
Yes, blueprint. And David, he's very, very professional. He's very, very polite. He's very, very thoughtful. He says, "Kevin, where did you come up with the idea for this?" Kevin raises the parchment.
The scroll.
The 2,000-year-old parchment. The original blueprints for the original Tower of Doom from the Ming Dynasty.
Yes.
He tells the story of some woman in the Ming Dynasty that was kidnapped.
Or the stolen princess.
Yes.
And they sent the Abuddin after her.
Excuse me?
That's what he said.
The Abuddin?
I've only heard this name twice, both in wrestling.
Yes.
From Kevin Sullivan. And when Dr. Luther was working for Tim, and he had a crew of bad guys, one of them was called Abuddin.
Okay.
I'm pretty sure that's right.
Well, Abuddin stole this woman. So he's got this diagram here, and I'm just dying. David Crockett, Kevin's crazy. He's like, "This scroll from the Ming Dynasty, the Abuddin." He's just going crazy. And then David goes, "So this door here." He points to the diagram. He goes, "Just tell me about this door." And Kevin Sullivan goes, "It's only going to be open for 30 seconds. David goes, "So once you get in, there's a trap door." Kevin goes, "Yeah, right here. There's a trap door right here. There's another one down here." He's just they're so polite when explaining this diagram.
It's so awesome.
I'm just crying watching it.
Because Kevin begins this promo by being a screaming,
Out
raving
of his
lunatic
mind.
about the scroll of a 2,000-year-old
Yes.
parchment and the Ming Dynasty and princesses and Abuddin. He ends the promo as he's screaming, raving lunatic about Patty and how she's going to tell the truth. And in the middle, yes, as they are discussing the rules of this match, it can't possibly be as complicated as they're making it sound. But when Sullivan is going over the rules, there's ladders and a door and trap doors you gotta fight your way through. He's so clearly reading off cue cards because the rules are too complex to keep straight. He appears to be confusing himself as he's going over these rules. Finally, he just gets past all that.
It's not even that. It's like, it is as if I was going to have a house built, and I'm speaking to the architect, and we're just having a nice, polite conversation. So my studio's going to be here. Yep, your studio's going to be here, and there's going to be a door right there, and we're going to put the panel in. Oh, that's excellent. That's how they were discussing this Tower of Doom.
Yes.
And then Kevin goes crazy again.
He starts ranting. It'll be 3-on-1 or 4-on-1 or 5-on-1. Precious holds the key. And Garvin, if you don't believe she's on my side, ask her where she was last night. This is fun.
Dude, it's great.
I don't know if it was good, but it was fun.
Oh, it was good, all right. It was excellent.
Nikita Koloff and Steve Williams versus Max MacGyver and Bob Riddle.
Just squash.
Nikita has his ribs all taped up after a chain attack by Al Perez. They're going to do a Russian chain match, of course. It went a couple of minutes. Doc won with a stampede.
And Luger comes out for this promo. This fucking guy still has a bandage on, like he has hemophilia. He was attacked 3 weeks ago.
Yes.
He's still bleeding. So he explains that Flair has two choices. We got a lot of grueling tag matches, he says. You and I are going to be in the ring together at the Bash before we have our singles match. You better show up. You either show up or you forfeit. He says the incident that happened in Miami emblazoned in my mind. I watch it every day on the VCR. Mm-hmm. I have a video cassette recorder, he says. I don't know why I found that so funny. What, he travel with it?
They had travel VCRs.
In his bag?
They existed.
No, they didn't. You know how fucking big those things were? They were the size of this desk. There's no way he's traveling with a VCR.
VCRs in the 1980s were very, very big. He was a wealthy man. They must have existed at some point.
He would have had to have a bus to carry that thing around.
Maybe every hotel had a VCR. You're just counting on that.
And actually, he didn't ramble forever. And I tell you one thing every hotel did not have in 1988 was a VCR.
All right.
Yes.
They did not ramble on forever, although it was funny. He was reverting to his old format where like every third word he just shout. The attack in Miami. It was unprecedented. I watch it every day. So we go from Lex Luger, big, giant, tall as Flair always called him, the jacked up Adonis, to Steve Chamberlain of Turner Home Entertainment.
This guy.
He is there to plug the Great American Bash from Baltimore.
By the way, think about the state this company is in right now. They're talking with Turner about selling. Mm-hmm. They've lost millions and millions of dollars. They've worked so fucking hard to promote this show. They're promising you Luger versus Ric Flair for the World Heavyweight Championship. They've cleared 9.8 million homes for pay-per-view. Wait till you see what they come up with for a finish. Astounding.
It's amazing. Especially as we go over the build to this. Anyway, Steve Chamberlain. It's important for you, the wrestling fan, to know this show will not be shown on free television or here on TBS. It is only available on pay-per-view. And he lists their particular partners and providers. He did say we've cleared 9.7 or 9.8 million homes, but you will need to pay attention to local newspapers and radio shows to make sure it is cleared in your area. But if it is cleared in your area, he says, you'll have a better than ringside seat. That was amazing. The Road Warriors versus Robbie Amon and JC Wilde. I don't know which geek was the geek in the ring. But he's the worst wrestler of all time, of the week, of all time.
A new one.
This is the worst wrestler I ever saw. And he was only in there for like 10 seconds. Animal goes to press slam him. And this is not a big guy. This is a skinny geek. But rather than just... all you have to do is, like, plank, right? An animal, a big, strong monster of a man, will lift you up over his head. This dude starts waving his arms and kicking and flailing like he's actually trying to escape. And it works. And Animal drops him, and he lands on Animal's shoulders and tumbles to the mat. So Animal, life goes on. He goes to whip the dude in the ropes. Now the dude can't even do that. He's stumbling and fumbling everywhere.
He does the old deal where he misses his arms and his neck snaps on the rope.
Neck snaps on the rope.
He stumbles forward and gets killed.
Now, maybe this was going to go this quick anyway, because it was the Road Warriors.
I'm sure it was.
But it looked like they said, to hell with this. And they had a forearm. They didn't even do the Doomsday Device.
No, are you kidding? They were going to lift this guy on their shoulders.
No. And then risk him falling on his own head. So Animal just grabbed his head, hawked a top rope lariat, and they pinned him.
You know, I don't know, but just from looking at the guy, he looks like the guy that would have called himself JC Wilde. So I presume that's who it was.
I don't know how to answer that.
He just sucked. He fucking was the worst.
He was the worst. Worst.
You know what he was? He was, remember Mr. Kennedy? Like, people tried to lift Mr. Kennedy and he'd, like, kick his feet, but he'd legit kick him so you'd lose your grip on him.
Yeah.
This guy was Mr. Kennedy times 10. Fucking Animal!
With no body.
Couldn't get him up there because he was flailing so hard. He was horrible.
Yeah. So the Road Warriors do a promo, and then we get some news. We've been in Japan, he says, had a very successful tour of Japan. We came back, we've been kicking the Powers of Pain's asses all over the country, and now it's time for the scaffold matches, but the Powers of Pain have run away. So Ivan Koloff has gone to Russia. He's brought back a 6'8", 350-pound Russian. Well, we're going to make him fall 30 feet out of the air. And they talk for a while about how they're real men. The scaffold matches separate the men from the boys, and we've learned who are the men and who are the boys.
Hawk says, I was born a man. The doctor slapped me, I slapped him back, and then I took the nurse out on a date.
That's right.
It's a rough upbringing.
And they leave, and Ellering talks about the Powers of Pain were the six-man tag champs. So now they have to have a tournament for these vacant belts, and Ellering kind of flubs some lines where he says Jones has something under his sleeve.
Up his sleeve, Vinny.
Why did I write under?
I don't know.
Al Perez versus Dark Star. Al wins with a toe hold. Al is the forgotten son of Jim Crockett Promotions.
Oh, no, he's way more charismatic.
Is he?
I mean,
is he?
Low bar, but yes. I could pick Al Perez out of a lineup. I have no idea which Forgotten Son is which, except Gunner.
Okay. The Russian Assassin versus the Italian Stallion.
He's billed as the biggest Russian ever in the NWA.
And also one of the most awesome athletes ever.
Yeah.
Like in the world.
Ever.
The history of the earth. He wasn't. His wrestling was fine. He was a big dude, a big thick dude. I don't think he was 6'8".
I think he was about 6'4", 6'5".
Yeah. But he was a big, powerful man, and all his wrestling looked fine, but it was the in-between stuff that was cringeworthy. When he'd do a power slam and then pop up and arch his back. That was bad. He went with a back breaker. And I don't mean like the Rick Rude over the shoulder back breaker. I mean like Bret Hart dropping a guy across his knee. Then afterwards, they got to get this guy over as a monster. So he went to choke this man with a chain. All the jobbers in the world hit the ring to save him.
He tried to hang him to death.
Yes.
He's an assassin.
That's right. That's right. And all the jobbers came out to save him, and he killed them all one by one. They go to commercial. They come back to do a promo with Paul Jones, Ivan Koloff, and the Russian assassin who does not speak. So Jones says, I am the power of pain.
I was upset for about a week now, but now I feel great.
I will not have anybody who doesn't have guts. That's a shame to my organization. I want men who will get up on that scaffold and throw the Road Warriors off. So Ivan starts talking about their plan. Ivan rambled on.
I love when he goes, Hawk and Animal will meet their Waterloo in July and August. That's a long-ass Waterloo there.
There's a lot of Waterloo.
Told Ivan he wanted a man, a big Russian, a man with guts. So Ivan brought him, and I quote, this awesome man. It's the assassin.
It's the Russian assassin. So Ivan has a long, long speech about the plan to eliminate the Road Warriors, and the plan is they're going to eliminate the Road Warriors. Your Road Warriors are through.
Yeah. Classic heels. Only thing missing was a cackle.
That's true, yeah.
Although Paul did hold his hand up high, because apparently he didn't know if we could see how tall the Russian was. He had to go like this, so we really knew he's that high.
He's a tall man.
He's awesome.
A clip from Savannah. Where,
Can we have seen this whole thing? This was fucking unbelievable.
Yeah. So, this is kind of joined in progress. Jim Ross explains that he was about to interview Dusty Rhodes when Dusty Rhodes stormed into the Four Horsemen locker room and a great fight broke out. As Ross is talking, Rhodes emerges from the Four Horsemen's locker room. Very disheveled, bleeding, shirts undone and all sweaty. And it must have all happened very quickly because Dr. Death and Sting and Nikita Koloff all come running out to make sure he's alive. He assures them he is. He goes out to the ring. He calls out Barry Windham. And Barry Windham is pissed, and Windham charges, and they're having this awesome brawl.
So was it an official lumberjack match, or were
No.
all the guys just out there as lumberjacks?
Everyone...
To allow them to settle their differences.
There was a gentleman's agreement
I loved that.
for everyone to be lumberjacks for this brawl. This was not a gang fight.
No.
Dusty Rhodes wanted to fight Barry Windham. Barry Windham wanted to fight Dusty Rhodes, and both guys had friends there to make sure the other guy didn't run away.
Yep.
This is a manly fight.
And they had a manly fight.
This fight was awesome.
Dusty was the best babyface. Barry was the best heel. They had the best fight. They had a fight.
They had a fight. This is like seriously a super intense brawl. Both guys would get thrown out and get thrown back in. Eventually, after 2 or 3 minutes of this, Windham starts to lose, and he attempts to flee, and he gets thrown back in. And when he gets thrown back in, and he goes to the corner and cowers and begs for mercy, and he is both terrified and sad. Barry Windham is awesome.
Oh, he was.
I don't know if that's news.
Very, very great.
We were kind of lukewarm on Barry Windham during
He's
his
a shitty
babyface.
babyface.
Barry Windham as a heel is the absolute bomb.
Yes.
So
And then they cut away, and I was furious.
we just cut away. Didn't I assume like the Horsemen said fuck it and grabbed Barry and left.
Hey, listen, I'll tell you one thing. We kind of see angles like this on Raw, except they let him go too long, and they let him go to a decisive finish. Okay?
Yes.
This, they gave you just enough, and when they cut away, you were furious.
Yeah.
And then they tell you they will settle this at the Great American
Absolutely,
Bash.
absolutely.
I was like, where's my fucking VCR and my
Cable bill.
rotary phone to call these fuckers and get this thing? I have the network. I pay $34.95 for this.
That's right.
That's the way it needs to be done. Not like Brock Lesnar coming in and giving Seth 6 F5s and leaving him for dead and just walking away. And I'm like, I'm supposed to give a shit about WrestleMania after that? I don't care at all now. I kind of cared going in. This was great. What they did on Raw sucked.
Ron Garvin versus Jerry Price. So I think Ron watched that opener with the Fantastics, and he wanted to remind everyone that he is the king of bullying and beating up jobbers. He does headlock takeovers where he just, follow my logic here, he grabs the dude in a headlock and throws him over as hard as he possibly can.
Yeah, and they get air. They fly across the ring.
He threw a guy by his head.
Yes.
He's foot stomping him. He's slapping him. He's taking him down. He's fighting like Randy Couture, where Randy would get a guy down and he just like grind his elbow into the dude's face.
Yeah,
That's what Ronnie Garvin's doing here to Jerry Price.
Idiot wouldn't give up.
No. And finally he hit a hip toss and the knockout punch and won. A thrashing. An absolute thrashing.
So then we've got Jim Ross with Precious. So she's out there and she's kind of a little bit quiet. She's acting a little bit heelish, but everyone's still cheering for her. She keeps fucking with her hair the whole time. Jim Ross says, I want you to answer honestly, as you always do. She's a babyface. Have you ever had a relationship with Kevin Sullivan? No, she says, no. In Kevin's mind, maybe, but not mine. Ross pushes her. Were you ever friends? No, we were never friends. Ross says, so Sullivan's been lying this whole time? I mean, it should be self-explanatory. Yes, she says. She's tugging on her hair and looking around. Ross says, well, you know that Kevin Sullivan's been predicting things. He's been predicting championships that have changed hands. He's been predicting things that have ended up happening in the future. She says, well, what? He has ESP? That was a weird answer. Ross says, what about you and Jimmy? What's going on with you and Jimmy Garvin? Jimmy Garvin forever, she says. Everything is fine. It's fine now. She's all exasperated. But then she goes, ask me any question. Ask me any question you want. He says, why did you slap Dr. Death and push Jimmy Garvin a few weeks ago? Is that all worked out? It's all worked out, she says. Bad question by Jim Ross. He should not have asked, did it get worked out? He should have just said, why? By asking if it got worked out, he gave her an out. And he says, tell me about when Sullivan took you from the ring. Now she freaks out. I don't want to talk about Tallahassee, she screams. I'm sick of Tallahassee. I hate Tallahassee. Starts shoving and slapping Jim Ross. Freaking out, losing her mind. Garvin comes out, takes her backstage. Jim Ross, no answers here. This was weird.
It definitely was weird.
Because, like, in some ways it was horrible. But, like, they kept the storyline going. Mm-hmm. You were intrigued when it was over.
We still don't really know what's happening.
You have no idea what's going on. Mm-hmm. You're waiting for this bash to find out the answers. And so you can sort of overlook how god-awful the byplay was between these two people. And I'm not blaming Jim Ross.
Well,
he was out there attempting to ask questions, and he was getting stonewalled.
Well, I think the gimmick was supposed to be that while everyone loves Precious, it was supposed to be that she was obviously lying, and we could all see this. And so Jim was trying to get her to tell the truth. And she refused because that would kill the angle. So she got more and more exasperated and frustrated and lost her patience and snapped, went crazy. And Jimmy Garvin had to come basically save her. It was weird. Tully Blanchard and Arn Anderson versus Tommy Angel and Don Grundy.
I want everyone to close your eyes.
I want the exact same thing, but go ahead.
Close your eyes and imagine a Crockett jobber named Don Grundy. What do you think he looks like? Do you imagine pale, flabby, overweight,
mullet?
Incredibly awful balding mullet? Well, you have imagined Don Grundy. And boy, did they take fucking glee in beating the shit out of this guy.
Beat him. Just like stomps and knees and elbows.
They beat him unmercifully. I don't know if they ever even let Tommy Angel in. And listen, he sucks, okay? Tommy Angel sucks, all right? And they were like, leave that guy on the apron. We want Don Grundy.
I wrote these exact words.
Oh.
Grundy looks exactly what Don Grundy would look like.
Yes.
I've never seen such a Grundy man.
He was so Grundy.
He is incredibly Grundy. So they beat him and they beat him and they beat him.
And his first name was Don. I have nothing against the name Don, but it's like a very, very normal name.
Sure.
That's what this guy was. He was Grundy, but he was also Don.
Even Donald or Donnie Grundy.
There was nothing that stuck out about him other than how Grundy he was. You know what I'm saying?
His Grundy nature.
Yes.
His Grundy appearance.
Oh, this guy.
So they beat him, and finally...
I'm laughing thinking about Don Grundy.
Finally, they go to finish him off, and Tully goes to the slingshot suplex. Now, it's a work, obviously, and if anyone out there ever doesn't want to get a slingshot suplex, just go limp, and you won't be able to do it. But we saw Ray Traylor take a perfect slingshot suplex. A guy pushing 400 pounds, and he made Tully like a star and started his own career. Tully goes to lift up big, flabby Don Grundy, and Grundy does this move. This move was Grundy. It looks terrible. He's all limp and gangly and flopping all over the place. Tully is pissed. He elbows this dude. He knees this dude. He tags in Arn, and Arn hits a gourd buster and pins him.
Yep.
Remember when we started the show and I said this show was ugly?
It was very Grundy.
This match.
It was a Grundy match.
Match was Grundy.
You know what? Arn and Tully are professionals. And I'm not saying that other guys aren't on the show are not professionals, but when I look up and down this show, I want to see Ron, Garvin, and Don Grundy. I think that'd be unbelievable. I want to see
Sullivan.
I want to see Kevin. Oh my God, Kevin Sullivan and Don Grundy. I want to see Dr. Death and Don Grundy.
Yes. Ooh, Rick Steiner.
Rick Steiner and Don Grundy.
Is there a best of Don Grundy
So
available?
many dream matches I have in my mind.
Actually, the last of Don Grundy because they just killed him. Ric Flair promo. He plugs all the bashes in Charlotte and Dallas and everywhere else they're going. Mostly talks about Baltimore on July 10th. Everyone is putting Lex Luger over, he says. Not those exact words, but this is the guy who's going to finally take Ric Flair out. And just to prove how wrong everyone is, to prove that he's this much better than Lex Luger, he's this much better than this hot new challenger, he's going to settle for nothing less than a 1-2-3 win. His ego is so vast. This is Flair's words. His ego is so vast, I have to beat the man. So he's already being crazy Ric Flair. But at this point, he gets so crazy, he has to move out in front of the podium to be even more crazy. He goes off on the eyeball Lex has with the bandages. You can ask Dusty Rhodes or the Road Warriors. He says, your stitches are nothing. You will pay the price before we even get to Baltimore. And as he's talking, Jim Crockett is like trying to hold the microphone.
David
Crockett is trying to follow him with a microphone, trying to hold the mic so he can rant, also trying to, he's looking off screen, he's getting directions.
Yeah, like wrap this crazy guy up.
Yeah. And it finally ends and Flair storms away. And David says, let's go to the ring. And it fades to black and we go to commercial break.
He was so flustered. It was awesome.
Kevin Sullivan versus Ryan Wagner.
Killed him.
The story is Sullivan is irate. Patty was lying earlier. He actually was not. As Sullivan beatings go, this was nothing. He beat him and he pinned him with a punch. Hey, Tully and Arn promo. Okay, this is 3 weeks in a row now. Does Arn Anderson know what a civil war is? He keeps
Apparently
talking about
not.
going to civil war. Like he's fighting with Ole again.
Yeah.
Or he's going to fight Tully or Rick.
It wouldn't be Ole anymore. It would be Tully and Rick.
I guess.
Yeah.
But
Barry.
this is his feud, or his theme every week. Like it's time for civil war. Like, no,
I guess
stop,
maybe
dude.
if you consider that the National Wrestling Alliance is the nation, there is a civil war between the baby faces and the heels.
That makes so much more sense than anything else I would have thought of.
Yes.
So, talks about what it takes to be a champion. You get in the gym every day. You put your heads together and get a plan. And he took a shot at Sullivan when he started about how this man was just a lunatic and the Horsemen are...
He's calling someone a lunatic?
Yeah.
He's just one of the 4 fucking horsemen with Ric Flair.
Yeah, well, no demented ramblings, he says. It's part of being a champion. He says Luger is looking over his shoulder after this attack, and that's going to be his downfall. And Tully just plugs on the first time anyone's mentioned this, but on the Baltimore show, it's going to be Tully and Arn versus Sting and Nikita for the tag titles. And he warns Sting and Nikita, don't worry about your friends, don't worry about Dusty, don't worry about Lex, don't worry about Dr. Death, just worry about us. Cornette does a quick promo. So at the Baltimore Bash, it's going to be the Fantastics versus the Midnight Express with Jim Cornette in a straitjacket in a cage hanging over the ring.
That about covers it. In case you can put him underwater.
That's a lot going on fire.
Yeah. Put the bars on fire.
So he says, I won't be there to interfere, but I won't be there to pull the Midnights off you after they beat your ass either. This leads us to the main event.
This is a main event. We never see matches of this caliber here on the show.
No.
All main eventers, mostly.
The Midnight Express and the Sheepherders
Oh, dream team.
against a not dream team, a bad dream team. Gorgeous Jimmy, Mighty Wilbur, and the Lightning Express.
You know what, though? Tim Horner and Bobby Eaton looked so awesome together early, and even Mighty Wilbur looked fine. It was like all action. Like, two guys would get in, do a spot tag. Two guys would get in, do a spot tag.
That's true.
Two guys would get in a spot. There was no downtime.
Tim Horner was fucking up suplexes left and right.
Well, you know, it wasn't perfect. Yeah. But I enjoyed it before they just abruptly went off the air.
And like 3 minutes, and they said, see you next week.
It was only an hour-long show, too. They could have given these guys 25 more minutes. Was there baseball on or something? Super Bowl? I guess we're not exactly...
No, this was in June.
June,
There was no Super Bowl.
The fuck would it have been?
They did promise that the Great American Bash from Baltimore on July 10th would be, quote, the most watched wrestling event of all time.
That is a load of horse shit right there. The Clash they just did 2 weeks ago destroyed the Bash pay. How could a Bash pay-per-view... They were like, it's cleared in 9 million homes. I'm like, okay, so it's cleared in 9 million homes, but like, how many people in those 9 million homes are going to buy it?
Right.
There's a very small percentage of that. You realize that like your Clash was seen by over 3 million people? You think you get 3 million buys for this Bash? How about when Hogan and Andre had their match? Which when would that have been? That would have been before this. It was
Year and
88.
A half. Yeah. No, 9 months before.
It was 88. No, it would have been 9 months.
How am I doing?
You're out of your mind.
I am.
Let's see what it
15
was.
months or so.
No, it was 88. We're watching 88.
Yeah, Hogan Andre was 87 in March.
No, the TV one.
Oh! 4 months then.
The main event.
Yes.
So what month was that? February. Yeah, so 4 months earlier, 33 million fucking people. And these shitheads, that doesn't even make sense. 33 million people watched it on TV. This is only cleared in 9 million homes. How could it fucking be the most watched show of all time?
I don't know.
It doesn't make sense.
No.
So anyway, they lied. And the show ended.
The show ended.
That sounds like pro wrestling to me.
It was.
The way it used to be.
We watched
They
pro
lied to us and went
wrestling.
off the air. Okay. All right. Well, that's the show, everybody. That's our show, too.
So let's get funky like a monkey.
Completely different. NWA World Championship Wrestling from June 25th, 1988. Just before we get into this, I just want to know, did you find this show as boring as I did?
Well, I think you probably found it more boring. It was mildly boring. But at the end of the day, the whole point of the show was to build up the Great American Bash and the Bash pay-per-view in Baltimore. And I thought they did a very good job of it. And when the show was over, I really wanted to see it.
Fair enough.
But there was nothing exciting. There was no great match. There was no great angle. There were god-awful fucking promos, which is usually the best thing on this show.
Yeah.
I wrote down some lines here that people spat out. Now you know why they got sold.
I guess I do.
The one thing they had going for them, they lost here in June of 1988.
So the show opens with fireworks. Not like in the building, mind you. Just stock footage of fireworks. And the Great American Bash graphic. And then the exact same clips they used last week of Lex Luger beating Big Bear Khali and Ric Flair beating Ricky Santana.
I think they showed more this week, but yes.
They may have. We begin with Sting versus Jerry Price. Sting comes out in a Great American Bash t-shirt. Now, Sting in this era was just undeniably wacky. You watch his promos, it's clear he has no plan going in. You watch his matches, it's clear he has no plan going in. But I just watched like the first 20 seconds of this like 3 times just saying, what are you doing? There's a backdrop that gets fucked up, so he just does it again. He goes up to the top rope for a dive, and Jerry Price is nowhere out of, near positions where he just stands up there and waits forever until Jerry walks over. And he just hits a splash and Scorpion and wins. So he cuts a promo. He addresses the little stingers in the crowd, tells them to use their hands when they howl for maximum protection.
You people are howling wrong. You must use your hands, he says.
Yes, he's coaching them how to do this.
Yes.
He tells everyone you must buy the pay-per-view so you can have more fights in your living room than I have in my living room.
Yes.
He bought a portable TV to watch Lex Luger beat Ric Flair, Then he remembered he's on the show too.
Fighting for the tag titles.
Yes. He says, you should all go buy a Great American Bash t-shirt. If you do, I promise they'll have some that fit you, unlike this one that is too small for me, even though it's a double XL.
All right.
Paraphrasing, but that was his message.
Yes.
That was wacky. Ivan Koloff and the Russian Assassin versus two geeks.
This was Joy in Progress. They didn't have a graphic for the geeks.
No. One of them, the announcers identified as Robbie Ullman. He was the one in the piss yellow tights.
Great.
The other one, it was driving me crazy because he's on every week. He's got the long red hair.
Dude, they're all so interchangeable. He could have been one of 80 geeks.
It was eventually, I went back and checked. It's Keith Steinborn.
Oh, Keith Steinborn.
Yeah, the long red hair and the black singlet with the red waistband. So, let's see what happened here.
Nothing. The assassin got the win. That was it.
We have Jones saying he is the powers of pain. The powers of pain follow him like a great white cloud, he says in commentary. As he's saying this, the assassin and Allman fuck up a press slam. And then the assassin wins with a Cobra clutch they're calling the Russian guillotine.
Brutal.
Yeah. So we get a Price for Freedom promo. So the Great American Bash is the tour. This specific event is Great American Bash 1988, the Price for Freedom. Now, this is the dialogue I wrote down.
Not the price of freedom.
No, the price for freedom.
For freedom, yes.
What is the price for freedom? The Great American Bash 1988, the Price for Freedom, is a battleground where champions defend their titles at all cost, and the bloodthirsty contenders grapple for glory.
Sounds awesome.
Wow. So they plugged Flair Luger, Wyndham Rhodes, the Tower of Doom with a big giant graphic where it says Tower of in small letters, and then Doom in big giant letters.
It was incredible.
Yeah. There is a match on this show. I think we talked about it before, but it bears repeating. It's the Midnight Express versus Fantastics with Jim Cornette in a straitjacket in a cage hanging above the ring.
Yes.
And it's 10 lashes to the loser.
Yes. They're not cutting any corners.
That may be a little overbooked.
No, come on.
And also Sting and Nikita versus the Four Horsemen for the tag titles. We get a Paul Jones promo. So not only Jones at some points in this promo is insisting that he is the powers of pain, but he also wants to make it clear that he has the powers of pain. So he's lost his mind. He's just lost his mind. He thanks Ivan for bringing in the Russian assassin. Ivan promises that the end for the Legion of Doom is coming this summer.
It'll be the doom.
The assassin just stands there.
It'll be the doom for the Legion of Doom.
That's right. That's right.
I got to talk about this Crockett promo. Jim Ross is there. He says, I got to talk to Jim Crockett, president of the Jim Crockett Promotions. So comes out and he announces that on the tour, you, the fans, will be able to witness a handicap bunkhouse match where he says Jim Cornette will be in the ring in tights. This, he assures us, is something we won't want to miss.
This is worth seeing, believe me, were his exact words.
Yes. He talks about the straitjacket, the shark cage. He notes that Cornette, quote, can't interfere because of all of this. And then, of course, Cornette shows up and is trying to be all nice, and Crockett doesn't want anything to do with him, and he leaves, and Cornette flips his lid, goes crazy, vows to make an idiot out of the Fantastics. I thought he was going to throw to the ring for the Midnight Express. Instead, Magnum TA came out, and that was the end of Jim Cornette.
I just want to add, before we move on to Magnum, we've been watching Superstars, where they do update.
Yes.
And they go to a separate location, and there's Sean Mooney with monitors everywhere watching global action.
Yes.
They had a graphic that says, Price for Freedom Update, and they just go to Jim Ross in the same studio they always are.
Yes.
It was lame.
Yes. No global television.
Absolutely not. It was just everything they normally do. Like they could have even moved him to a different part of the studio. You know?
Yeah, he's just right there.
Shot him from a different angle.
Turn him around.
Same shot we always use. So Magnum TA does come out. He says, my I Quit match with Tully Blanchard was the most intense moment of my career, and now I get to be there at ringside when Dusty Rhodes faces Tully in an I Quit match in my hometown of Norfolk, Virginia. So he is there to plug that match and then do commentary for the next one, which he did a great job, by the way. So the next match is a trios match.
Oh, God.
Featuring the miracle connection of Brad Armstrong and Tim Horner and Kendall Windham.
Oh, God. What a six-man.
Versus Cruel Connection 1 and Cruel Connection 2 and Max MacGyver. So,
remember that 10-man tag we saw on Raw on this past Tuesday, the retro show?
I do.
This was not that match.
This was not.
But you know what? I'll give him credit. It was all action.
It was all action. Cruel Connection, I think one of them is George South, but whoever they are, they're awesome. They are great bumbling fools.
Yes.
They did a spot where they cut off one guy. It doesn't matter who it was. But they have him in the corner, and they're just throwing pummeling fists, pummeling overhand hammer fists to him. All four arms are waving, hitting this guy. And he just ducks under and walks across the ring to his corner. They're still throwing fists. They're punching air. What geeks?
They're amazing.
It gets better. I think it was Horner. Whoever it was, he tags out, and the guy coming in climbs to the top rope, and Cruel Connection 1 and Cruel Connection 2 both turn in concert and walk across the ring, eat a flying body press. Wonderful buffoons. This is a great cartoon is what this was. And I will also say this.
Hey, think about this. They made a match with Brad Armstrong, Tim Horner, and Kendall Windham exciting.
And fun.
Yes.
And Kendall Windham, as much as I've made fun of him on this era and in Nitro, this dude can run the ropes, or at least he could in this match. He was zooming all over the place. Max MacGyver was horrible, and that's okay. Kendall pinned him with a bulldog. This exceeded my expectations. The Spam Slam of the Week was Tommy Rogers power slamming Keith Steinborn.
Yes, a slam was the slam of the week for once.
That actually is news.
This was newsworthy.
But the fact that he appeared in the show twice, that's what motivated me to say, okay, I have to go look at this guy's name now. It's Keith Steinborn. We had a Dusty Rhodes promo.
So you're telling me that Keith Steinborn was one half of the Spam Slam of the Week?
Well, the receiving end.
Better be on his Wikipedia.
I guess. So Dusty Rhodes cuts a promo from the volunteer state of Tennessee, as he calls it. He's wearing a trashy gym shirt, a nice blazer over that, and this huge white cowboy hat. It's like 10 feet tall. So he says, Barry's a yellow dog like the other horsemen. I've got Sting on my side, and Nikita Koloff and Dr. Death and the Road Warriors. The name taking is over, he says. The hiney kicking will start. Says that in the bash on July 10th, he's going to beat Barry Windham for the U.S. title. Lex Luger's going to beat Flair for the world title. He quotes Bob Dylan about keep it on, and he keeps on for a while, and that's it.
You know, we were talking on the Retro Show about how what this business is missing in 2019, outside of Chop and Roll Express matches, is when the dudes come out and the women scream. Dusty Rhodes takes off his fucking hat, reveals his fucking disgusting scars, and the chicks just went crazy.
They did.
They went crazy for Dusty Rhodes. And like later they go crazy for Rick. Some of them go crazy for Luger, but like Rick was so awesome that they really weren't. But what's happened in this business? And then I can't remember who pointed it out to me. It might have been Lance on the show. But somebody pointed out to me, you know the only guy that the women scream for nowadays? It's still Jeff Hardy.
Yes.
2019. 20 years later, he's the only guy now. It's just weird.
Scott Putski.
Oh, my God.
David Isley.
Okay. Do you guys remember Scott Putski?
Oh, I do.
Remember Scott Putski when we were walking on those Nitro shows? And I think he did some stuff for WWF as well. Every time in my life I have ever seen Scott Putski, like, he looks like Scott Steiner. Just enormous, giant, jacked up dude. Here he is in the first match I've ever seen him in, like timeline-wise, and he looks like Frank Shamrock.
He does, actually, yes.
He looked like he was about 180 pounds, short hair. Like, it's inconceivable that this is Scott Putski, but it is. And he's so green. Like,
He absolutely was.
he was greener here than I think you were when you faced Stoney Edwards. Like, he actually did a very primitive Frankensteiner,
Yeah.
but like everything else, it was like he never, I mean, like maybe he trained a week. That's what he looked like here. And he's skinny, and he's young. I mean, this to me was like the most noteworthy thing on the show.
Oh, I agree.
Like, Scott Putski never really became like a big star or anything like that. I mean, he was used and they did things with him here and there, but like he was never like a main eventer for any major promotion.
You don't say.
But man, like he was just so small. You know what he looked like? A lot of you won't even remember this. But what the hell's the machine's name? Brian Cage. Guys, ever seen Brian Cage from like 2008?
He was skinny.
You wouldn't even recognize him. Now he's 10 times that size. And Putski ended up being about 10 times the size that he was here on this show. It was mind-blowing.
So, all these thoughts are going through my head at the same time. And then, of course, Jim Ross is on commentary, so he's going to talk about football. And it turns out with Scott Putski, there's a lot of football to talk about. At this time, as this was recorded, Scott Putski was a starter on the TCU football team. Not that he was a starter the year before and has now moved on to pro wrestling. No, he played college football in the fall before this, and he would go back and play college football in the fall after this. So
that's a throwback, baby.
I couldn't believe this was true. Jim Ross is throwing out lines about how he's got NFL hopes, and Scott Putski was never that big.
Dude, there were guys in the 50s, 60s, 70s, or earlier than that, who'd play football, and then they'd go make the big money in pro wrestling.
Yes.
Think about that.
Yeah, but so I had to look it up just to verify that, and I found, Scott Putski was a fullback at TCU. I found a clip of a long touchdown run he had. So he was a stud athlete, which I never, I didn't believe that, but I made a joke about how could he maintain his eligibility as a college athlete when he was competing here in this pro wrestling match. How did the NCAA let that happen? And someone pointed out that Crockett was losing money. He probably wasn't paid for this.
Well,
that's a valid point. That's a valid point. So, yeah, the other notable thing about this is not even what anything Putski did. He was very athletic. He did the one Frankensteiner, even though he fell on his head. Otherwise, he did headlocks and he did punches, and that was about it. The announcers they're not just telling you to get the show on pay-per-view. They're telling you what pay-per-view is and how it works.
Yeah.
Like, no one had ever heard of this before.
Well, it was relatively new.
It was sort of new, but they've done pay-per-views before. I guess it didn't do very well. So try it again. Anyway, Scott Putski wins with the Polish Hammer, and then seriously one of the very worst top rope splashes I ever saw.
Yeah, not only that, he covers the guy. The ref goes 1, 2, and Putski stands up to celebrate. He's not even touching the guy when the ref counts 3.
Oops.
Like, dude, what are you doing?
Well, hey, credit to that ref for just counting the damn 3.
Yes.
Don't make a bigger deal out of it. They do a quick interview with Scott Putski. He's very nervous. He says a lot. He's actually going to be competing on the Great American Bash Show in Houston, which is why they put him in this spot to give him that little exposure. Says, my dad's training me in the ring, in the weight room, and we're doing a lot of running.
Yes. All right, allow me, Vinny. Nikita Koloff and Dr. Death come out. Now, it doesn't matter what Nikita says. He's got a chain. He cuts a promo on Al Perez. What matters is Dr. Death. Steve Williams. A man who's had his fair share of not great promos over the last several weeks and months. Admitted he's been tongue-tied. Marble-mouthed. He comes out here and he says the Great American Bash is the greatest thing in professional wrestling. He starts talking about the Tower of Doom. He tells us that everybody in the world will be watching the Tower of Doom, quote, on TV, paid review. Not pay-per-view. Paid review.
Excellent.
I rewound this over and over. This is why I was late today. There were a few promos that I rewound over and over. This was the first one. paid review, he called it. Not pay-per-view, paid review. He's stumbling through this promo, and they just hit the fucking Road Warriors music. And he's suddenly like, oh, there they are! And he throws to the Road Warriors so they can go out there and kill two geeks. So they kill these two geeks quickly. JC Wilde and Tommy Royal. Now they're at the booth.
Oh, God.
The booth where Dr. Death told us about paid review, where you will be able to see the Great American Bash. Hawk cuts a promo, and he talks about how they're the cream of the crumb.
Yes.
The cream of the crumb. What was happening at this booth? Was there electromagnetic interference that was messing with everyone's fucking brain?
I don't know.
And there's a worse one coming up later.
Well, before we move on from this one, I want to go back to Nikita, who opened... First of all, Nikita was bald forever. Then Nikita came back and he had a flat top. Now Nikita just has a high top fade. He looks like Scotty 2 Hottie. His hair is enormous. His first line of his promo is to ask Crockett or whoever's interviewing him, hey, when is that Baltimore show again? What is the date of that Baltimore show? The big show that's so important. We're supposed to plug it in every segment. Doc had a line here about how Rotunda's a great athlete from Syracuse. I'm a great athlete from Oklahoma. Says, you're a TV champion. I have won and retired belts in my time in this sport. So I guess he's threatening to win the TV title and then retire it, like he did the UWF title. The Road Warriors eventually come out. Animal's mohawk is like twice as big as Nikita's hair. I don't know how much Aquanet was in this mohawk to get it to stick up. He wins with a lariat. They showed it in super slow-mo. He may have broken the dude's nose. They did their promo. It was all yelling and screaming and roaring and the cream of the crumb. And then they leave. The Warriors do, and Ellering is still there. He says, this legion of this Tower of Doom, Sullivan thinks he has set a trap. And he thinks there's a bait in the trap. But the only free cheese in wrestling belongs in the trap of the Road Warriors and the Legion of Doom.
Don't look at me, dude. I was caught up on cream of the crumb.
This is all very odd. Nikita Koloff beat Ryan Wagner with a sickle. Anything else to say?
No, Rotunda comes out.
Oh boy, does he ever.
I wrote it all down, so allow me. First he says, there's no way Dr. Death is taking my title from him. What the hell's his title, by the way? The stupid...
TV title.
TV title. He then says, and this is a direct quote, I'm going to try to do it, I can't do it.
Make sure you point out what he said about Syracuse University.
You can get to that.
His very first line, and it's important because it plays into this, his very first line is...
That's right.
Syracuse University graduates no idiots.
Syracuse University graduates no idiots. He says, I'm going to put the title up more times than any times before. In a string every night in the Great American Bash is this title will be on stake.
Yes.
Let me say that one more time.
Yes.
I'm going to put the title up more times than any times before. In a string every night in the Great American Bash is this title will be on stake.
Phenomenal.
So I
wrote it down too, by the way. He's right.
So then he says, I hear that Sting is going to get a portable TV. Well, if he gets in the ring with me, his face will be rubbed in the mat. I'm like, what the fuck does that have to do with his TV? What'd you bring his TV up for? And then finally he says, I want the world title after we get done here in the Temple of Doom.
The Temple of Doom. Did you hear his line where he said Rick Steiner was in a Turkish bath somewhere?
Well, yes. That I think he meant to say.
Maybe.
The rest of this he fucked up.
Who the hell knows?
And thank God there was Kevin Sullivan to save the show. He knew how bad this promo was, and so he turned it on. Said, you must be deranged to get in the Tower of Doom with the Road Warriors. I've told the truth since day one. Dusty would become the U.S. champion. Last week, he says, someone on this program lied. There was only two of us. One was me and one was Patty. He says, all women are liars at some point. Ross put her in a bad position. I have this envelope. There's a document in this. Says, I'm going to give this to you, Crockett. I want you to read this letter, and then we're going to find out who the liar is. And then he basically said, Patty, if you don't give me the key, this is a metal cage, and I will make sure that you're so unattractive nobody will ever want to be with you again. He threatened to mutilate her.
His exact words were, if I can't have her, I'll make her so ugly nobody else will want her.
Yeah.
A line used by stalkers and serial killers all over the world.
Holy smokes.
Yeah. Evil, this man.
And John, I was just listening to Johnny Cash today, basically. He killed his woman when she wouldn't agree to marry him.
Excuse me?
Yeah. Well, in the song.
Huh.
Banks of the Ohio.
I don't know. I only know I was a shot a man in Reno just to watch him die.
Nah, they went for a walk, and he wanted to talk to her about when they were going to get married, and she didn't want to, so he stabbed her in the chest and threw her in the water and watched her drown.
I had no idea his songs were so violent. Sheep Herders versus Italian Stallion and Rick Allen. Rick Allen is horrible. The Sheep Herders won.
Cut an incredible promo afterwards.
That they did. They were sure to plug the upcoming, the tour you don't want to miss, the Great International Bash.
Yes.
So they're talking about the rock and rolls.
These bloody Yanks.
They were born in the USA. That means they're bloody Yanks. And because they're bloody Yanks, they suffer at the hands of the Sheep Herders because they do not like bloody Yanks.
Yep.
And then claimed it to be the bloody end of the rock and rolls of the bash.
Yes.
It was a great promo. Tully Blanchard and Arn Anderson versus men who they claimed were Joe Cruz and Tony Bowen, but I'm 100% convinced that one of these guys was Dan Severn.
All I know is they threw out JJ on commentary to try to save that Mike Rotunda promo as he attempted to explain the intricacies of the Tower of Doom.
Well, he also called it the Temple of Doom, by the way, just to make sure everyone was off their game. I like when he plugged like 3 or 4 specific different Caribbean resorts they were at by name. Like he was sure, like for example, one of the resorts they worked closely with the security director Basil, who kept the fans away from Ric Flair, which I loved. And Tully grabbed the guy who was not Dan Severn and pinned him with his slingshot suplex.
So Flair comes out. He cuts his unbelievable promo. Says if you're the best at what you do, you win at any cost. I'm myself, Ric Flair. I'm like the LA Lakers. I'm going to repeat one more time. I'm not standing out here in a Bash shirt because the entire sports world, the wrestling world, they all know what's taking place. July 10th, the Bash in Baltimore. Lex Luger, the physical phenomenon. The man experts say will beat Ric Flair. There will be 9 million people watching, he says. 15,000 in the building in Baltimore. I'm going to walk that aisle, crush Luger's dreams. There's only one world champion, myself. I'm the best wrestler in the world. My question was, does this fucking guy really think there's going to be 9 million people watching the Bash? Like, they've said this for weeks now. The Bash is cleared. It will be available, potentially, it will be available in 9 million homes. Like, do these wrestlers actually think there have been 9 million buys, or are they just out there bullshitting?
Actually, we'll break down some numbers later. 9 million may be pessimistic in some of their eyes.
Oh, wow.
We'll see. Dr. Death beat Big Bear Collie in a minute with the Stampede.
He also cut a promo on the Warriors. Talked about...
Flair did, yes.
Yep, talked about the stitches, broken bones of the Horsemen. Says Luger wasn't even going to make it to Baltimore. He'd have to pay God's price to be there. And if he does get there, look at who you're going to have to beat. The best there is. This promo was so good. Like, it was so good that when Lex Luger came out for his promo, he's out there, he looks like $1 million, got a hell of a tan, great hair. He cuts a pretty damn good promo, all things considered, but there are people booing.
That happened, yes.
Because he's not Ric Flair.
Which is kind of the story of his whole career.
Yeah, Flair made it so abundantly clear that nobody can tie my boots. And he wasn't wrong.
Yeah.
And whoever had the fucking idea of had Luger come do his promo after Ric Flair, that was a fucking mistake. He should have been out at the beginning of the show. Yeah, Flair come out later. Having Flair come out and be Ric Flair and then Luger comes out directly afterwards, it was like striking. This was just sad.
I did like when Flair said the Four Horsemen were the nucleus of pro wrestling.
Yeah.
So Lex does his promo. He is wearing baggy jeans and a tank top. He is getting boos. And it was a good Lex Luger promo, which, is not as good as a good Ric Flair promo. He wants Flair to be at his best on July 10th. He's got 60 minutes to beat up Ric Flair. He didn't want to press charges after what they did in Miami, and nobody's going to press charges against him for what he does in those 60 minutes. Barry Windham versus Bobby Rose. So Barry hits a superplex. He briefly contemplates putting on the Iron Claw, and then just pins him instead. A man of many weapons, this Barry Windham.
Well, that's good. We gotta let the fans know there are many ways for Barry to win, besides just squeezing their head.
Yes. So J.J. Dillon and Barry do a promo. So here's where J.J. Dillon does his math.
I got to say something, by the way. I got to say something, by the way.
That's what we're here for.
I don't know if I've talked about this on the show before, but at the Alderwood Mall, they've got a massage place in there. It's called Better Massage. Okay? And it's in the mall. So, they got those chairs, those massage chairs.
Like in the middle of the mall?
Yeah, it's like right next to
got it. Yes.
Whatever, the Disney store.
Yes, okay.
So, they have chairs and they have some tables as well. But it's not like a normal massage place where you take your clothes off or whatever and go in a room.
There's no draping going on.
No, there's just a line of tables. So you wear all your clothes.
Yep.
And literally there's one guy there that speaks English. None of the other people giving the massage speak any English whatsoever. And it's just like traditional Chinese massage. And they just brutalize you, which is the way that I like it.
Yes.
So anyway, I go in there today because my neck's bugging me. And the guy in there, the one guy that speaks English, broken English, he explains to me, you could take me, I go really hard, or her, she goes medium hard. And I said, well, you're fine. Dig into me, whatever you need to do. So this dude lays me down and, oh my God, brutalized me. But at the end, he goes to do the scalp massage. Okay? This is the Iron Claw. Wasn't that bad.
So really, Wyndham was doing all these guys a favor.
Yeah, it was
clearing migraines.
It basically did. I mean, I felt a lot better afterwards. Around the skull area.
I've only done the mid-mall massage thing once. My neck was killing me one day, just absolutely killing me. And I was at the mall, and these guys were there, and I said, I got to get this done. And I explained what was going on and where my neck was tight. I said, I don't care about my back, I don't care about my shoulders, just fix my neck. And the dude pulls the chair over to the side, sits me down in it. He puts his two thumbs together. He plants his two thumbs in the side of my neck, and he puts both feet on the wall. And he just pushes into my neck for 15 minutes.
Yeah.
It was torturous, it was agonizing, and I felt so much better.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's weird.
That was
I've gone there, I swear to God, I've gone there 4 or 5 times in the last couple of months, and with one exception, I felt 1,000 times better. And the one exception was, I got this one woman, I was doing the chair massage, and for some reason, she kept digging her fucking elbow into my spine. Not one side of my spine.
No. Yeah.
On the actual bone.
Yeah, that's no good.
I'm like, dude, that's not where you do, but I don't know what happened. So I avoid her now. That one didn't make me feel better.
No, that sounds awful.
It was horrible.
So this promo here with J.J. Dillon and Barry Windham, this is where J.J. Dillon does his math. He says the Great American Bash on pay-per-view has been cleared in 9.7 million potential homes. Then he says for each of those homes, there's going to be a minimum of 3 persons per home.
Oh, yeah?
So we're now approaching 30 million people watching this.
You know why they said this, by the way?
No, but go ahead.
Because a few months earlier, there was the Saturday night, or the main event show, with Hogan and Andre that did 33 million viewers.
Ah, I see.
Yes.
Well, after this claim of 9.7 million homes, 3 people per home minimum, J.J. Dillon then says this will be the most watched sporting event of this decade.
Yes.
More than the Super Bowl,
Hey.
the Olympics, the
Yep.
World Cup,
Yes.
the Great American Bash, Price for Freedom will be the most watched sporting event of this decade.
That's a load of bullshit.
It was a huge load of bullshit. And then Barry Windham cut a promo. It was short, but it was awesome.
He's a great heel.
He says, I'm going to teach Dusty Rhodes a lesson just like I taught this clown. I just won that match with a superplex. Dusty Rhodes, you weigh way more than 300 pounds. You won't get up from a superplex like that. I'm going to walk out the champ.
And he walked out.
And he walked out.
The champ.
That was great. Like
Yeah.
I say, I thought the show overall was boring. But you were right. It did all lead to the Great American Bash.
Yes,
pay-per-view
when this show was over, I couldn't wait for the Bash.
and the Bash Tour. Well, they still got 2 or 3 more weeks here to kill
Well, I
you.
hope they have more excitement the next couple of weeks. But I thought this was a very, very good go-home show, even though it wasn't the go-home show.
Well, there you go.
So, yeah, I watched a lot of Raw go-home shows. This was better than 99% of them.
Fair enough.